The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Welcome in, everybody. Good morning. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Those guys aren't here. Those guys are not here. I'm here, unfortunately, for you guys, but I'm excited to introduce my co-host for today. In the producer chair, standing at 6'2" and 185 pounds, Mr. Jelly, ladies and gentlemen. Jelly, not Jelly Roll, but Jelly. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween, dude.
Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, yeah.
Now, again, you can't be the tag team champions without a tag team partner.
That's
so
right.
on one side, you got Jelly, and that means on the other side, you got Peanut Butter,
That's
ladies
right.
and gentlemen. Peanut Butter. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to Peanut Butter.
Big time.
How we doing?
What? Peanut Butter?
I want to be honest. I want to be completely honest with everybody. I haven't dressed up for Halloween since I was like 10 years old. So when Jacob texted me yesterday, hey, I'm going to like 9 different Halloween stores and we're getting a bunch of costumes. I said, Jacob, I don't know. I probably shouldn't be wearing anything. I just don't dress up. He's like, you know what? Well, I got peanut butter and I got jelly. Casey's going to be the jelly. You're going to be the peanut butter. So you're going to have to put on a brave face and just do it. I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
I love Halloween.
So
I love
now I'm dressed up like peanut butter.
Had to drag these guys along.
By the way, you look great.
Thank you.
What's the name tag say
I'm Reed
there?
Mouse.
But you're Reed
I'm Reed Mouse.
and you're a mouse.
M-O-U-S-E.
That's
correct.
me.
There you go. So peanut butter
Kenner,
jelly
you
time.
decided to dress up
I did. I decided the scariest thing that I could be.
like somebody who goes to fish fries. That's a fish fry. That's a fish fry outfit.
What does that even mean?
Huh?
You just look like it's just like a black t-shirt, some khaki shorts. Listen, I like the black t-shirts, but it's just like you look like you're going to a fish fry.
Mark says that costumes are a great radio bit.
They are a great radio bit. If you're listening on the radio, imagine something stupid.
I saw on Unsportsmanlike on their show on ESPN this morning. They went as the cast of Happy Gilmore. So
Really?
Evan Cohen was happy. You had who was Chubbs? I always forget the other guy's name on Unsportsmanlike. Great publicity for the ESPN radio station
What is
here.
unsportsmanlike? What is that?
Great stuff. It's the morning show on ESPN Radio. That's the whole problem right here. No one
I've never
listens
heard
to
of it.
the morning show on ESPN
Is
Radio.
that before or after Greeny?
That's from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And then Greeny, he has a show named after him that he doesn't even have to host.
No, he doesn't host it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the fun
actually
part.
a cool little setup if you ask me.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's kind of like our show for a while.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
just
It's kind of like our show for a while. We do have a super chat. Some people in our chat dressing up for Halloween as well. Justin Edgel, $1.99 super chat, says he dressed up as a trash bag today.
Ooh, I wonder why.
I know,
Is
yeah.
it trash day?
TV24. Not
Is
sure what that means.
Is it trash day?
I know. I don't know. He's taking out the trash.
I guess so.
Interesting. I don't know why people would be doing that today.
Do you usually dress up for Halloween or no?
I do. I just forgot today was Halloween, and I was the one asking everyone, "Hey, are we dressing up for Halloween?" And
I said yes.
Does
yes,
your wife
you
like
did.
Halloween? Is your wife a big?
No.
No.
I
don't like
By
it.
the way, don't like when people come up to our house, so we don't give
Oh,
out candy to
no.
kids. Yeah, we're those people.
We
Yeah.
moved.
Why don't you just leave the candy outside?
Yeah.
Because then some jerk always takes it all.
No. Yeah, but like at least it shows you care.
Oh, but I don't.
I know, but that's
fair.
I know, but you
that's
don't have
the
to
thing.
actually care. Casey, your wife is a big Halloween gal, right?
Yeah, this year was a little bit different, a little strange. We just had a lot going on this year, so we didn't have any parties planned or anything like that, so we just didn't have any costumes. So I think it just also caught up with us pretty quickly. We had a lot going on this month. We had the roof. We had
The month-long roof.
Yeah, we had the fridge. We had a car breakdown. So it was just a lot going on.
Yeah. Are you gonna give out candy for Halloween?
So we still have a oodles and gobs worth of Halloween candy from last year.
Oodles
That's
and
been-
Noodles and gods, yes.
that has been sitting in our pantry cabinet for a long time. So Whether she likes it or not, I'm gonna just sit a bucket out there and say, take all that you want, and just.
So what's worse, me not giving out any candy at all,
That.
or oodles and gobs of old expired candy that Casey's giving
I'll take
out?
oodles and gobs because if I eat it last, I have such a sugar rush anyway. I don't care how it tastes.
Yeah. It's like oodles.
Our old house used to be billions of trick-or-treaters walking through. I mean, just like cars would drop them off in the neighborhood and leave and pick their kids up later. And ever since we moved, there's no trick-or-treaters anymore, and I hate it. I loved sitting outside giving out candy. I did it all like through high school and everything. It was
We
fun.
live on top of a hill, so there's no like nobody walks up our hill to come
You should
to our
get
house.
to earn
like
it.
5-pound chocolate bars, and it's just like if like the 3 people that make the trek,
Yeah.
they're rewarded handsomely.
Okay, that's fair. I'll tell my parents that. We'll see what they can do.
But no, I have not. The last time I dressed up for Halloween, I think it was Freddie Kitchens a few years ago.
That's good.
At a work party. That was easy.
That's
I
good.
just had the headset. I just had to make myself fatter.
you go.
And then, I just had like a little menu in front of me or whatever.
I like that.
Always with a confused look.
Coach
on
always
his
plays.
face. Yeah.
Going as your local team's coach always plays.
Shout out to Ryan Clark, by the way.
Yeah.
Hypocrite. Let's see. What else do I got for today? Oh, no. Then the previous time, Halloween party at OU. It was like a severed head, but like you put your hand under your head, but the
I like
top
that.
looked so at the beginning, no one really pays attention, but when you're walking around OU at night, hammered, everyone else is hammered. They're really confused how you're holding your head, and there's the neck up here. It was a really cool costume.
That's good. I like that.
It was a really cool costume.
I only
like
won the costume contest once in college, but it paid for the bar tab. It's the greatest thing I've ever won in my entire life. And I went as Post Malone. It's when I had my buzz cut and the
Yeah,
longer
you
beard.
do. You do look like Post
I got all
Malone
the
a bit.
face tattoos and everything. It took like a day and a half to get them off. But
Dude,
that was the best costume I ever pulled off, I think.
But
Maybe
the face
this one.
tattoo, that would have been cool, but that was before he went country.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was before he went country.
By the way, I'm just trying to think of how these clips are going to look today when we're giving serious sports
I think
takes.
really good.
And half my head is out of this big bread.
That's not
with peanut
stressing
butter
you
on it.
out. Like, that's stressing me out, that covering your mouth.
And
You don't need to fix it. I'm just
But
saying,
if I go like this, it's like I feel like it's just as bad. Like that doesn't really. I mean, that's.
No, I just feel like if there's anything like that's why like COVID was really bad for me, just having to have my mouth
Yeah.
covered like this. I hated it.
I don't like that either. I don't like that either.
Mm.
But so you spread it.
Oh, super
You were
spreader,
a
dude.
super spreader.
that's what I was for Halloween in 20. But there you go.
Kenner, how do you feel about the world's greatest World Series ever? Something that's truly great for the sport ending in 5 games.
Look. I mean, come on. You can't say that the Yankees and Dodgers was bad for baseball. I thought it was a hell of a collapse, by the way, by the old Yankees. You have 5-0 lead right off the bat. I was like, cool, extend this series. The TV networks were kind of bummed that a sweep almost happened. A gentleman's sweep ended up being what it was. But I think the network was really pulling for a 7-game series. A Game 7 would have been Saturday night.
Yeah, Yankees are the only MLB team to blow a 5-run lead, allow 5 unearned runs, commit 3 errors, commit a catcher's interference, and commit a balk in the same game, regular or postseason.
Oh boy.
That is quite a collapse.
So all-time collapse.
It was pretty crazy. And by the way, this is like the only headline I have. I watched the entirety of the game, and at no point did I think the Dodgers were going to be able to win. It just seemed like it was a Garrett Cole masterclass, and they were just going to win this game easy, force Game 6, and maybe they'll lose it then. But then it's like a routine drop in center. Garrett Cole's not covering first. You have the weird catcher's interference call, which I'm gonna be honest. It was catcher's interference, but I feel like that call was too close to call in a World Series game. That could be me, and maybe it was too obvious in front of the home plate umpire. But it is kind of crazy how that was called, and it pretty much ended the game. Luke Weaver, shout out to our guy Luke Weaver, came in there and blew it, but it wasn't his to blow, to be fair. But still, wild game.
You got out of singing.
It's true.
No World Series saves.
It's true. Juan Soto was already asked about free agency.
He's so gone.
He said in the post game that every team's gonna have this. They asked if would you come back to the Yankees? He said every team's gonna have the same chance.
Oh, the Reds?
That's what I'm saying.
The Reds.
Oh, man.
If Juan Soto comes to the Reds, Kinner, I'm gonna go to Great American Ballpark and I'm gonna live there for the next year.
Maybe he'll just forget to cross us off like Shohei did, and we'll
Yeah.
be able to think we can get him for a while.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. Honestly, I think that should be the plan. By the way, Reed's looking at you through that window. He gave you a good 30-second stare.
I didn't see him.
And I think he was trying to figure out what the name tag said. I don't think he could read it.
I hope
though.
he
I think,
approves.
to be fair, I think he thought it was looking in a mirror.
Yeah, that's what
He might
exactly
have.
He was looking at himself.
He
Like,
might have thought
how
so.
am I there and here?
And also back there.
Yeah. So But anyway, sorry, I got distracted there talking about the World Series. But I will say this: it's good for Shohei Ohtani. Nobody deserved a World Series more than that guy, suffering on that Angels roster for years without ever seeing the postseason. I am somewhat pleased that the greatest player maybe of all time is rewarded with a championship.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool.
I saw today that someone put on Twitter that the real MVP of the World Series happened to be the translator for Shohei Ohtani, who took the bullet, back during spring training to allow this dream, storybook ending to unfold in front of the entire baseball universe. So shout out to him. I don't even remember his name.
I certainly don't remember his name. But yeah, it's
Ipe.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Ipe?
Ipe.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Shohei also said he forgot his name too. I don't even know him.
Who? Best friend for years. Best friend for like 30 years.
Ran his bank accounts.
Yeah.
He's just a casual acquaintance from time to time.
Had all his passwords, so kind of crazy.
All right, well, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. Everyone else having fun, dressing up for Halloween, and then there's Kinner, Mr. Fun. Mr.
Wright
Good
State
Time.
basketball. It's like you're a part of the team.
I'm ready to suit up, ready to go. I'm open. Pass it to me. I'm open. I'm ready to shoot. I'm ready to shoot. All right, we'll be right back. We'll talk a little bit more baseball on the other side, too. The Dodgers, again, they win the World Series last night. They wrapped that series up against the Yankees. Gentlemen's sweep, if you will. Are the Dodgers about to become, or are they baseball's new dynasty? We'll talk about that when we come back. You hiding in the peanut butter sandwich over there? We'll be right back. More Off the Bench next. It's peanut butter jelly time, along with Reed Mouse.
That's right.
And then there's me, who didn't dress up at all. Happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome in. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliott Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here. Dodgers win the World Series last night. Of course, the Yankees get up to that 5-0 lead. It looked like they were going to extend the series, but they had one of the biggest, most epic collapses in World Series history last night. We've seen collapses, like series collapses, but to be up 5-0, the way that they were at home, and to let the Dodgers creep back the way that they did, and to not just win the game, but to win the World Series on your home field too, just tragic.
Did Garrett Cole give up a single earned run? I didn't check that. No, he did not. So he went 6 2/3, 4 hits, 0 earned runs. Yet all 5 came from him. That's insanity. It's just insanity. And one of the errors was on Garrett Cole, which I do think that's kind of a bloop in the system there.
Yeah.
I can get away with it. But
that should make them earn.
Yeah, it should. The routine error in center field by Aaron Judge, it's just wild. I'd rather get swept than lose like that.
Was that his first error of the season or first error of the postseason? I thought I saw
maybe first error of the. I don't know. I don't know.
It was at least the first error of the postseason or season, but either way, he doesn't commit errors.
No.
And to have those moments, and then you compound that with the fact that he has just been atrocious this entire offseason.
Yeah.
It just made it worse. And then, of course, that error also a part of the collapse. Again, the most Yankee thing ever.
I love us Reds fans referring to this part of the baseball season as the offseason. Because it is.
It is.
Every year.
Yeah.
It's our time to shine,
But
baby.
they were playing the World Series.
October is the start of our offseason.
Yeah.
October's the best because you can think of what can happen next year in October, which again,
Maybe
off-season.
hire a new exciting manager.
That's right. How many managers can we hire in October to make it work?
We should try to break the record.
I think we should.
That'd be cool.
It'll be
Speaking of
very fun.
managers, Aaron Boone's fine, right?
Yes, Aaron Boone's not losing his job after that.
They said he won't. They said he'll be back in
Yeah.
2025, which I think is crazy.
I wasn't advocating for it to happen, but I knew there was, he at least had to get to the World Series for his job to be safe. But it was just the fact that the collapse, the way that it happened, of course, you shouldn't hold that against him. But we know how in New York it's different. So there you go. But no, at the beginning of the season, when we were talking about the Reds potentially moving on from David Bell, if that was a possibility, my bold take was that Aaron Boone would be the next manager of the Cincinnati Reds, just because at the time the Yankees had started to kind of fold a little bit as well. It just seemed like it was aligning that way, but hey, they got hot at the right time, and obviously I thought it was a great World. Maybe the series wasn't very entertaining, but I did like the big game feel. Baseball, you don't get that often. You don't get that big game feel the way you get sometimes with the NBA Finals, and you get with the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, you could have not bad teams. You could have 2 non-sexy brands in the Super Bowl and it still feel big time. Baseball is not that way.
No, 100%. I mean, we saw it last year, even with the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. I mean, this series was not nearly as exciting, I guess you could say, but you're not going to see even comparable rankings.
Yeah.
There's going to be way more people that watch this series just because it's two bigger names, two bigger.
Well, I think it had more.
stars.
It had more ratings in Japan than it had here. I think it was bigger in Japan than it was. Oh, somebody's barking outside.
Oh, there's
of our
two
studio.
dogs.
But yeah, I think credit to Dave Roberts. I think that's a name we don't really talk about much in Major League Baseball. At least I don't. And maybe just because he's a manager, but what he did with no pitching staff to carve. I know he had a $300 million roster, but to still carve through pretty much everybody and win a World Series this season with Shohei Ohtani, when all the pressure in the world was on them to win a World Series because they've been known to choke in the postseason. I will credit him. Dave Roberts is a phenomenal manager.
Using Buehler in the ninth, who has never had a save in his entire career, picking up your first save to close out the World Series when you've struggled for basically the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Multiple surgeries, barely made the playoff roster. And then you throw a nails game in the World Series as a starter, and then you come in as a reliever. He said he didn't even throw any warm-up pitches.
Yeah.
So the first pitch he threw last night was from the mound when he came in as a reliever, which is just crazy to me. And it's really cool to see how all these guys are so committed to winning at that point in the season that it doesn't matter what the situation is. Like, he was ready to go out there and perform, and he did.
Yeah, you mentioned Roberts, too. I think sometimes some of those managers don't get the credit they deserve because, well, look at the payroll. I mean, we do this all the time, right? I mentioned Aaron Boone a little bit ago. I don't want Aaron Boone as the Reds manager. He couldn't get it done with the unlimited resources and money with the Yankees. But Roberts was put in a position with that depleted pitching staff where he had to manage. He had to be very selective and creative with how they utilized the bullpen and the rotation. And you just mentioned some of the creative stuff they had to do there. But, yeah, he is a manager that doesn't get talked about nearly as much. But his second World Series.
Good for him. Good for him.
This then counts 20, right? Like, for the people that didn't count 20,
Yeah.
I think this then you have to count it now.
Now it counts. Now it counts. Now it safely defends it. Freddie Freeman, one of the best World Series I've seen by a player. He was incredible all the way through. 4 home runs.
The Grand Slam.
He was awesome. Freddie Freeman was awesome. He deserved this. I saw the take on Twitter yesterday that Freddie Freeman is what Joey Votto would have been had he gone to a good team. Or two good franchises, and that's probably true. Freddie Freeman and Joey Votto, I think, elite Hall of Fame first baseman. So good for him. He deserved a World Series. Mookie Betts, I love Mookie Betts.
I didn't realize that was I forgot that was number 3.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Boston, and then the 2 with LA.
Yep. Freddie's got 2.
He knows how to pick him.
Freddie's got 2. But yeah, I'm not gonna cheer for the Dodgers. I think it's it kind of ruins the sport when you got $200 $300 million rosters playing for your championship, saying that this does, in a way, shine a light on those who don't spend money, who don't care enough to spend money in Major League Baseball. There is a method to the madness. Spend money, and you win World Series. We're all aware of that. We talked about it last week, but it's, I think, only 3 teams since the year 1995. Only 3 teams since 1995 have had a payroll less than the league average and won a World Series. Only 3. The Astros, the Royals, and like the 2002 Marlins, whenever they won a World Series way back then. But it's a different game. You have to spend money in order to compete. You have to spend money in order to win a championship. And I hope small market teams that have owners that care, they look at that and say, okay, we know what we need to do. We need to spend a ton of money. It sucks that all this Bally stuff's coming at us at once.
Yeah.
Because that is going to kill the small market teams coming into next season. If we're going to have to start dealing with that immediately, I'm hoping we get a little bit of a grace period. But if we have to deal with it immediately and we have to cut payroll, then yeah, this is why people complain about baseball. This is the whole reason why nobody wants to watch anymore. It's because you have the best of the best on the same team because that owner cares enough to pay for it. And it's clear that there's a lot of owners in Major League Baseball that do not care enough to spend money. Mm-hmm. And if they don't have the money, then don't own a team. That's my argument against it.
So I do have to address this. You were very concerned about how serious people would take you in a peanut butter and jelly costume, given
Correct.
Professional sports takes.
Correct.
And you're knocking it out of the park.
Thank you.
You're doing a great
well.
job.
I thank you. I'm looking at myself in the TVs, and it's
looks
almost
great.
It's foul. Casey, please, shot of the jelly.
Yeah.
We're going to have to work
Okay.
in more jelly today.
We have, Casey. You have to
Have
give
to work in
like
more
even if it's
jelly.
just a little like you have to work in the jelly, or else the bit doesn't work.
You could even just swing it. You could just swing the rock when you
Yeah.
throw the camera back to Kenner.
Yeah.
Just when Elliot's done talking,
Oh,
quick beat of jelly.
Just do like one of these, like boom.
Oh, jelly. Kenner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this, Kinner. Do you think let's say this is the start of a dynasty by the Dodgers?
Yep.
Shohei Ohtani starts this thing. Let's say they win 3 World Series the next 5 years. Do you think at any point Rob Manfred's going to step in and say, and let's say those World Series are between the Yankees, the Mets. Mets can't play the Dodgers in the World Series, so Yankees and I don't know who spends a ton of money in the AL, the Rangers. It's just the top 4 payrolls every single year competing in the CSs in the World Series. Do you think at some point Rob Manfred would step in and say, okay, we're going to have to level this playing field a little bit somehow? I don't think they're ever going to agree to a salary cap unless Nick Kirby said it. I thought it was kind of interesting. If the Dodgers somehow get Juan Soto and pay him $1 trillion too, but he gets all his money when he's 44, I think at some point you have to step in, right? You can't have it just have one team be the best of all time and they continue to get better and spend more money than they had previously. Like it's just unfathomable to let it continue to happen. Now we're not there yet, so we'll see what happens next season. But I just think that for the sake of baseball, there needs to be a salary floor or a salary cap. I don't think a salary cap should be the way you go because that's punishing people who actually care about their franchises and want to spend money. I think a salary floor is what the league needs.
It's hard to implement that with this Bally stuff we're talking about, though.
Right?
It's
bad timing.
It's horrible.
It's
timing,
bad
'cause
timing.
These teams seriously aren't going to have money for a while.
It's bad timing. And for the record, I don't think it's going to happen within the next 5 years. I think it's.
How would you even do a salary cap with existing contracts?
Yeah, you'd have to probably. I don't know.
There's contracts through 2039.
I think there would have to be an addendum where the existing contracts aren't affected by that salary cap. I think that would be.
But now you're talking about the Dodgers being able to have this team with an implemented salary cap, and Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani don't count.
They get locked in. Yeah, but I think at that point you would at least start the process.
You'd see it. Yeah,
You'd start.
And that's fair.
You'd start the process, and maybe that's for the best. I think salary floor is the best way to go. I don't know if you can do that because half the owners are poor, and they won't care enough to spend money, so they're like, "Well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not." I think that's loser mentality, and I think half the owners shouldn't own teams because they don't care enough.
That is a wild concept. Like, stop making me spend my money. Why you own a team then?
Yeah.
Like, I get why you could say, well, I can't spend as much as him. That's fine. But I don't think asking you to spend league average is too much to ask of a billionaire. I
don't think so either.
I think that's a fair request. I've made the argument about the Guardians. Like, the reason I get annoyed with them is because they don't spend and yet they keep winning, and I say, oh, that's bad for baseball. Like, I could technically have that same theory where I shouldn't root for the little guy because every time like when the Diamondbacks get to the World Series last year, that's bad because, okay, the Reds fans, we were like, see if they can get there, and we missed the playoffs. I mean, the Diamondbacks made the playoffs last year. The Reds missed it by 2 games, and the Diamondbacks were the last team in to make the playoff in the wild card. You could say, well, now we have hope because, look, we watched the Diamondbacks do it. So every time one of those small market teams makes an impressive postseason run or gets to a World Series, that's Rob Manfred sitting back saying, see, Cincinnati, stop complaining. The Dodgers don't always win it. The Yankees don't always win it. It's going to take a dynasty type where they are just hogging all the championships. Hogging all the players isn't enough to get the top of baseball concerned. It's when the championships start only being handed out to a less than a handful of teams then. But I think that we're far from that ever being a problem where baseball is going to make a change because every time the Diamondbacks make a run, every time, and Houston actually, they do spend money, but the Nationals, teams like that, if the Reds make a run with Terry Francona, we set baseball back every time because every time one of those small market teams makes a run, it's, see, and you guys said you couldn't do it. You're just jealous because the Dodgers could spend money. When realistically, like your point, if the Dodgers go on a little dynasty run and it's constantly the highest spending teams in baseball winning the World Series, that's when that conversation gets opened up. But until then, I think we're just going to be watching the Dodgers and Yankees spend all the money while we just hope our prospects pan out.
Trace echoed the college football comparison of the MLB to college football after the game. He said 2/3 of the league is Boise State or TCU at best. It's great to know that if it all goes perfect, you have a chance, but more than likely, a blue blood is coming along. And that's exactly the case. If everything goes perfect, if there's injuries elsewhere and you're able to stay healthy and all the guys get hot at the right time, you can make a run and maybe get there. And obviously, we haven't seen a team in the bottom of the payroll win it since the Royals, but we've seen teams get there, and that's really all I need, at least as a Reds fan, to believe that it is possible, at least a little bit. But every time a World Series like the Dodgers or Yankees happens, or even a team like the Rangers last year just pours $300 million into their roster and all of a sudden wins a championship, it just proves to me that it doesn't matter. You need so much external to help you win a championship if you are not a $300 million roster. And that's just, it seems like a broken sport to me when you say that.
So Carl Ravitch with ESPN, he said this on Juan Soto's next contract. He's going to get something that starts with a 7, if not an 8.
Wow.
We're not talking 5 or 6, but a 7. It's going to be in the $700 million area. And maybe the Dodgers are in on this too, but that would be insane if the last 2 biggest contracts in baseball go to the same roster. That's a problem, I believe. But at the same point, Juan Soto, I'm sorry, but $700 million, I get how super talented he is. He's going to get a big number. But we watched Shohei Ohtani get that money because he's one of the best pitchers in baseball and one of the best hitters in baseball. You're getting 2 players for the price of 1, basically. Juan Soto getting that $700 million range would be insane.
Well, I think the Juan Soto thing is he's a kid.
It'd be way longer than Shohei's.
Yeah, Juan Soto's he's my
that?
age. He's
22.
Oh, he's older than me. He's older than me.
Or is he? What
Yeah,
is
he's
he,
older than me.
25?
26. He's 26.
Okay.
But he's still a kid. So I mean, he's got still.
It's always
10
good when someone's older than you.
Correct.
'Cause
I
that
love
feels
feeling.
real
I
bad,
Because if he's older than me, so now I could be Shohei Ohtani, or I could be Juan Soto.
You got like 12 months.
I got a year to get to the same ability as Juan Soto,
Right,
so
so
I could get
you
that.
grew up watching him too, right?
Yeah,
right.
I grew up watching him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would. I think it's crazy, but I do think he's the best. Probably, I mean, he's what, the best 26-year-old in the league. So I think that would be a fair. I think that would be a fair deal. But that's the thing. If a team wants to pay that, they get him. They get it. He's not going to sign for lower money because why would you when the Dodgers and Yankees want that contract and they are willing to spend? So that's the thing where it's like, is he worth it? Who cares? Because somebody's willing to pay for it.
And I'm here to tell you, it's like people get mad. Well, the Reds would never have a chance at him. I'm not saying I don't want a Juan Soto on the Cincinnati Reds, but I don't really want the Reds to dish out a $700 million contract.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if they had it, maybe I'd think differently. It's way different being a fan of the Dodgers. Like, Dodgers fans don't think that way. But, like, for the Reds, it's just kind of like – but, again, we're going to be put in that spot. My theory will really be tested here in a few years when it's time to pay old Ellie.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it's more interesting coming into this offseason. Now, again, the Bally thing throws a wrench in everything. So, but we're looking at guys like Teoscar Hernandez, Anthony Santander. These are all-star outfielders. We want them to be Reds. Those would be 4-year, at least $85 million contracts that you're looking at here. At least that's the bare minimum.
Santander and I bet they both get 100.
I bet they both get 100. So let's say we're willing to pay that. That would then essentially, based on the Reds' payroll, how they've been in the past 20 years or so, that would destroy them. I mean, you wouldn't be able to pay them that many other players. So, and that would include Ellie De La Cruz. That would include the guys you would hope to extend. So it's just a crazy sport, man. It's just wild. They need to fix it at some point. But like you said, as long as the little teams keep squeaking in there, as long as the Guardians keep making those little miracle runs, as long as the Royals win a World, look at the Royals. Look what they did.
We're getting on a decade.
That's right. And baseball's so different than it was then, even.
Yeah.
Just crazy, man.
All right.
What was the biggest contract in baseball in 2015? That's a bad question.
I mean,
You're obviously not going to know, but like it's nowhere near what it is now.
If somebody has that
These
answer,
payrolls have skyrocketed in the last
Joey Votto was a very high contract
yeah.
when it was signed, a very good contract when it was signed. Looking at it now, Joey Votto wouldn't be a top 20 paid MLB player, top 25 MLB player, based on salary, $20 million a year. It's $20 million a year is like the baseline for a good player. It's like what a good player gets, like not a great player, a good player. Good player gets $20 million.
In 2015, the highest paid player was Clayton Kershaw at $32 million a year.
$32 million.
Yeah, the pitcher market. Has that exploded?
Yeah.
Like past like a position player?
Yes, unless
For the elite ones.
Yeah. But I still think like
Cole got 300.
Yeah, like Sonny Gray's going to get paid, or he gets paid what, almost $20 million?
Yeah.
So I think that like Sonny Gray's not the world's best pitcher. He's not a top 20 pitcher, but he's a good, serviceable pitcher, and he's making more now than he would have back 10 years ago for sure.
So this goes, and I know we talked about the Reds yesterday, but when we know how limited the Reds are with spending money, going to get Sonny Gray, I would not be a fan of outside of the talent. Yes, I would love Sonny Gray back in the rotation. If to get a good pitcher is going to be about that $20 million a year range, I don't want the Reds to allocate $20 million a year towards one player in the rotation or the bullpen, just because I think that's actually one of the strengths of the team right now is that. Would you love another veteran pitcher in there? Yes, absolutely. But it's like you go the route of a $20 million position player. That's where I think it suits the Reds more, big picture, than going to get a Sonny Gray in that rotation right now when we like the trajectory of a lot of the guys in this pitching staff at this moment.
Funny enough, building off that, Terry Francona was on the Jim Rome show a few weeks ago, and he said, talking about Hunter Green in the rotation, I think one of our goals this offseason might be to get a veteran presence to help out this youth.
Never mind then. What do you know, Terry Francona? You bum. All right, go with that. No, but do you?
I think a starting pitcher is pretty high on my list of wants.
Okay.
I think getting a veteran in that rotation could really boost. It could be a really beneficial signing that helps more than just that one piece. If we get a veteran pitcher, then sure, you have a better 3 or 4 in your rotation. Yeah. That's great. Could it make Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo better? And then it's that $20 million or whatever, $18 million on a starting pitcher, then helps 3-4 guys play at a higher level. And that's what I think.
It's the non-box score stuff.
Exactly. And I think with how young our rotation is, getting a veteran that knows how to play, knows what it takes to be in the majors. Not that these guys don't, but when you've been in the league for 10, 20 years or whatever it is, you get a guy and you know the intricacies of playing MLB baseball, and you'll be able to pass those along to these younger pitchers. And I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough, and especially for pitching, that they're going to need, because these guys struggle to play 162-game seasons, and that's what a veteran can maybe teach you how to do.
And that's the other part of it too. The barking is outrageous.
Oh, but it's an adorable dog, dude.
Listen, I'm not blaming the dog. I don't blame the dog.
Is the dog dressed up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's go.
I kind of want to see if they'll bring the dog in here.
Yeah, see if you can get the dog in here. But listen, if I'm looking at the Reds' starting pitching situation, I think they're fine.
For
right?
sure.
Like if they wanted to go through this next season and say, we're not going to make any moves, we'll ride with the guys we have, I'd be okay with it.
That's
right?
probably the position group I'd be most okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with it. But Jacob's right. I want at least a little bit of a veteran leadership in there just to see how it goes, like with some of the guys that have been in the league for 10+ years. What's the regimen for staying healthy for an entire season? Because Andrew Abbott, again, I don't mean to pick on our guys here, but Andrew Abbott and Nick Lodolo, by the time September rolls around, they're not going to be ready to go. And I think maybe somebody can help them get through that. It seems like Andrew Abbott's arm is just broken or tired by the time it gets to the end of the season. I feel like there's other pitchers who have dealt with that and maybe can walk them through how to be better. So I agree with Jacob. I think having a veteran that comes in and does that would help.
Oh, and as we wrap this up, yes, I want a veteran pitcher in that rotation. And when we were just talking about from the money aspect, though,
understood.
It was just that or whatever. But again,
I certainly wouldn't want the biggest spend in this Reds offseason to be a pitcher.
Hopefully, it's a pitcher and a veteran position player at
nice.
The same time, and a good veteran position player that's been.
Hear me out here. What if it's a pitcher and veteran position players?
I mean,
now we're getting crazy.
Let's get
now we're getting crazy.
Plural.
Oh, baby.
I like it.
Imagine if they signed multiple good players this offseason. That'd be crazy.
Impossible.
Could they put an S on that sucker? Man, that'd feel good.
Impossible.
All right, peanut butter jelly time. Casey, the jelly. Elliot, the peanut butter.
We got to make sure we get one jelly every segment.
Yeah, of course. Got to make sure. Because the people are just tuning in out of nowhere like, what the hell is Elliot wearing? Well, it makes sense when you see the
they don't
jelly.
know if there's jelly or fluff somewhere in here.
You
just know there's peanut butter. You don't know who the counterpart is.
By the way, white bread or wheat bread? What we rocking over here?
Looks like white bread.
Almost certainly it's white bread.
But why does yours look like wheat bread?
I think it's because the jelly has little speckles of seeds in it, I think.
Ooh.
Well, maybe.
Is it more of a jam?
Ooh.
What's the difference between jelly and jam, Casey?
It's easier to spread.
That's right. That's right.
That must be jam because jelly don't shake like that, or what it must be. What is it? Like I don't know what the.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
All right, we'll be right back. Off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Long segment. Peanut butter jelly time. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
Were they
Justin
muted?
Kinner. Oh, what happened?
Nothing.
What is happening? Peanut butter jelly time. Casey the jelly, of course. Elliot the peanut butter, and Reed Mouse.
That's
everyone
right.
that was wondering about just mouse ears, right?
You tried to kick Reed off the show, but he finds his way back.
Every once in a while.
That's Reed Mouse.
Pesky little mouse.
That's Reed Mouse. I do like that costume.
MOUSE, that's me.
Is that a sweatshirt part of the costume?
It is. Sweatshirt and joggers. The most comfortable costume I've ever had.
I was gonna say that.
Phenomenal.
It looks fantastic.
For about $30 more, I could have got the whole like puffy.
No,
I'm going with
no.
the hoodie and
Well,
joggers.
so are the gloves attached?
It's a little thumb hole on the end of the sweatshirt sleeves.
Love that.
That's right. And I mean, if we're doing the whole costume thing now.
You got a tail?
Oh no.
Oh, no tail?
Oh no, your tail fell. Are you really shaking that thing for everybody?
Look at that tail.
There we go. Welcome
Jacob-
back to Off the Bench.
Jacob doesn't just shake it for anybody now. You know?
That's right,
You
baby.
know? This isn't your OnlyFans page, dude. This is Chatterbox on YouTube. What are you
That's
doing?
right.
Sit back down.
That's right.
And on the radio. So if you're on the radio, just imagine driving right now and you're looking at a mouse, a guy in a mouse costume.
That's right.
And he was shaking his tail at you.
That's right.
That's what
Yeah.
was going on there.
A lot of weird stuff happening here today on Halloween on Off the Bench. Remember, 2 days ago, you guys were making very inappropriate jokes about D's nuts. Remember?
Yes.
I was not.
Of course.
You were. You definitely were. You definitely were. Trayvon Diggs was the player for the Cowboys that got into it with a reporter.
Yep.
And then, of course, famously, before he went into the locker room and slammed the door, yelled D's nuts at him. And then, of course, everyone had fun with it. To Trayvon Diggs' credit, apologized to the reporter,
Yep.
made up with the reporter by giving him a can of D's nuts. He
Love
actually
it.
got him a can of nuts. And I love the comedy there. I love that a lot of times, like, by the way, I'm surprised this doesn't happen more, athletes just popping off on media
Yeah.
the way that he did. I'm very surprised it does not happen more. But what I do appreciate is both coming together and just like cooler heads prevailing a little bit. But shout out to, again, Trayvon Diggs, because I think that is pretty cool. I don't blame him for being pissed off. You know, your team's playing bad. You're playing poorly. You got some random nobody media guy just calling you out, whatever. He's upset. Cooler heads prevail, though. He came out and made light of it, made a joke of it. I think it's pretty cool.
The first thing I always think of when I see athletes blow up at like local media members and everything, it's like, how are the next 4 months going to go?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be sitting front row asking you questions every game, every practice. How is that relationship going to go?
Well, and I think it's so different than it was like 25 years ago where you could say whatever you want pretty much, and maybe you'd get a sound clip, but most likely they're just writing it in an article, and it would be a quote, and you're like, oh, who cares about that? When you get to actually see the videos of all these quotes, guys are probably like, all right, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to say the same monotone thing that I say after every loss. Like that's how the Bengals have handled it. That's how Marvin Lewis handled it. David Bell, that's how he handled every loss. You just speak in the same monotone voice. We're going to get better. We believe in our guys. That's the same thing. You just do the same exact thing over and over again. That's why you don't see it that much. But I will say this. I bet at some point with these losing teams this year, you might see more of it, which I love. I love when players go after reporters. It makes me very happy.
I think a lot of that coach speak from players and coaches is because if you get out of that mode, they might go crazy a little more often. If you let it slip a little bit and give your actual thoughts, then you might go off the deep end and get really mad at some people and say some things you shouldn't. So that's probably why they stay in that monotone coach speak zone. It's just so you don't get crazy.
I like, but listen, it goes.
It's way more fun.
It's way more fun, and it goes both ways too. The reporter then gets the clicks, he gets the attention, he gets the virality, if that's a word.
I like that.
You like that? Is that a word? Casey, is that a word?
Virality?
Virality?
What's your virality?
Virality is a word. The tendency of an image, video, or piece of information to be circulated rapidly and widely from one internet user to another. The quality or fact of being viral.
You just got promoted from creamy peanut butter to crunchy peanut butter.
That's right,
That's
baby.
how great of a line that was. Good job.
Elder education. They taught me that.
Nice.
Elder. I don't even know what I was saying now. So the virality thing. So yeah, the reporters are going to be fine with it. The reporters, I'm sure they don't want to be disrespected openly, but you get to tweet it, and then you get to get all the clicks. So I think it works both ways.
And the other thing too, I don't know if you guys have seen too, where the NFL Players Association is pushing back. They don't want media in the locker room.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, I can't believe how many media members got so pissed off that the Players Association was trying to keep them out. Why do you want to be in the locker room? Like, we don't have to go anywhere weird with it, but you don't need to be in the locker room. I can't even believe that was a normal practice for as long as it was anyways across all sports. There should always be, I feel like athletes should have a safe space after a game to go to and not have cameras and microphones and phones and everything else just put right in their face. I think that's weird. I have no clue why, as reporters, you want to get their instant reaction. No, I get why you do, but if I'm the NFL, I want to protect that. I want to prevent those types of things with Trayvon Diggs getting pissed off. Like, to help de-escalate some of this, I think athletes should be allowed to go to their locker room, debrief after the game, calm down, and then go address the media. Not saying that they're going to be calm every single time, but I have no clue, and I don't care that you're on a deadline. I don't care that reporters are on a deadline. I really don't. I think that's weird, and I can't believe it's taken this long for them to push to get media members out of the locker room. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I mean, guys are naked, so it's like it is like that's
what is it? 4 or 5 times a year we get a
screenshot.
Yeah.
We get a screenshot of somebody in the background that's completely naked. Yeah, I think that's 100% fine. Because I think it was Teddy Karras.
Yeah, he was one of the big proponents of it.
And he was like, we're gonna still do the interviews. We're gonna still do the same thing. We're just gonna have scheduled times, and we're gonna be in. I think they do like a little press conference thing, a little press conference room that they go to now. That's where it should have been all along.
I think it's better for the fans. They stream the press conferences on Twitter and YouTube a lot now, so you can actually see what these players are saying in full context as opposed to just social media clips and everything along those lines. Our beat reporters did a very good job when it was still in the locker room of posting, long clips and full questions and full answers and everything like that. But being able to watch it live and get the full tone and everything is certainly, I think, the best way to consume that kind of content anyway, because you don't get any kind of spins put on it. And I think moving it out of the locker room gives you the ability to do that. So I think it's a huge plus for everyone, not just the players. I think fans get rewarded for it.
And you think teams would take more control of it too so the way it works with college, like I work a lot with college basketball. They'll come over and the SID will tell you, hey, coach always will sit at the podium after every game, but they'll say, what players do you want? And they'll ask all the media members what players you want, and they'll try to get 2 or 3 of those players, and they'll bring them in afterwards. And then the teams, they'll air the whole press conference as well. And what that does is it does protect those athletes as well from just sharing a tiny little clip of something that you're trying to change the context of. The teams can control the narrative at that point. Hey, everyone's saying this. No, here's the full clip. Here's what was actually said. Again, just making this easier for everybody. I'm surprised it's taken this long either way. But that is what we call a touch and go. So
that was touch and go. That was a good touch and go.
Touch and go. That was, good. Ooh. Nice touch and way to go.
Oh my God.
That's what we're doing. We'll be right back. Peanut butter jelly time. Casey McAllister, the jelly. Elliot Rearing, the peanut butter. Reed Mouse, ladies and gentlemen. Jacob Tissett. And Justin Kinner, the host, who forgot it was Halloween. We'll be right back. More Off the Bench next. You as
2 different people.
Yeah. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll get to some college football stuff coming up here around the corner. It's the final auditions this weekend before the very first 12-team college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. So a lot of teams, they have one more opportunity to kind of show off before those rankings come out on Tuesday. We'll talk about which teams have the most to prove heading into this weekend's slate of college football. And actually, it kicks off tonight. We get to see Ashton Jeanty.
That's right.
Jeanty, what I've heard his name pronounced like a million different ways, by the way.
I say Genty.
I've
heard both on broadcasts, so I don't know what. Usually, my go-to is whatever they say on the broadcast. I'm going to rock with because I trust those guys. But I've heard both on broadcast, so I've been going Genty. If that's wrong, feel free to correct me, Ashton. Come on the show and correct me.
Please come on the show.
Yeah, Jeanty. I've heard Jeanty as well, but nonetheless,
we could just check. That's the best thing.
I know, but then you got to go to the website.
Yeah, right.
Then you got to go to the roster. Then you got to go to the pronunciation guide. And we're just. It's a very serious sports talk show here, nonetheless. But are you on it, Mr. Peanut Butter? There you go. I appreciate that. But we'll get into the college football stuff coming up here around the corner. Also, we'll talk Joe Burrow and the Bengals here shortly as well. Actually, we're going to talk Bengals now, but we're going to talk Jermaine Burton coming up. Joe Burrow spent a lot of time in the press conference talking about Jermaine Burton. So we'll get to that coming up here shortly. Jermaine Burton seems to have a huge following of Bengals fans that are clamoring for more Jermaine Burton. So we'll get to that shortly. Or should we get to that now? What do you want to do? You want to get to
Let's
that
do
now?
that.
Let's do that now? Okay, cool. We'll get to that now. So, pivoting. I like it.
I like a pivot.
But no, so Joe Burrow yesterday in the press conference, addressing the media and spent a lot of time talking, of course, about Jermaine Burton. Before we dive more into that, take a listen. Here's Joe Burrow talking about Jermaine Burton yesterday during the press conference.
What's your challenge for Jermaine Burton from this point forward, Joe?
Yeah, take the next step. He played great last week. That was awesome to see. His demeanor has been great. He wants to get better. He wants to improve. It's exciting to see him be a part of. I think he take the next step with his knowledge of the game plan, his knowledge of the defense, his knowledge of the offense, the minute details of each route. I think Jermaine's going to be a really good player.
He thinks Jermaine's going to be a really great player. In the limited time that we've seen Jermaine out there, he's actually made quite a few big catches and quite a few big plays, but it's been very limited. Not the big plays, but the opportunities. And that's what continues to be the big question mark. Before T. Higgins went down, the big question was, is this team too Jamar Chase, T. Higgins centric? And a lot of that is not really by design, but more so because no one else has stepped up to be that dominant number 3 option to kind of help spread the rock a little bit. And everyone's like, well, what about Jermaine Burton? Not even giving him the chance. You're continuously pushing the same cast of characters that aren't delivering consistently throughout the first 8 games of the season. Why wouldn't you? T. Higgins goes down last Friday, heading into the Eagles matchup. Jermaine Burton gets quite a few opportunities, capitalizes on that opportunity, but still not enough opportunity, and people have had enough. They want more. I do find it very odd. That was just a short clip. Jacob, you and I talked before the show. Yeah. There was about a 3-minute clip where Burrow just went on and on and on about his view and perception of Jermaine Burton and what he means to this team now and big picture.
We've seen more out of Jermaine Burton on 5 targets than we have out of any of the other third wide receivers in terms of excitement. I mean, I know Andre Yoshivas has many more yards and more catches and obviously the touchdowns, but how many times have we talked about that his inability to get open in standard plays on running routes? And Jermaine Burton, I know he only has the 2 catches on the season for about 80 yards, but man, there's a lot of plays of him getting open downfield and the ball just not going his direction, which is completely fine. And I'm not blaming Joe Burrow. I'm not saying he needs to be locked in on Jermaine Burton on a lot of these plays, but it's just proof that outside of just the 2 catches that he's made, he has the ability to do more than just run a straight line. And he's shown that at least a little bit. And to hear Joe Burrow go out there and endorse him basically for about 3.5, 4 minutes about the separation he's able to create off man coverage, the stuff that he provides that none of the other third wide receiver options provide in this offense, and how he wants to see him out there more, it validates me and a lot of other Bengals fans that have been saying a lot of the same things from watching the backside of it and the limited practice clips and the limited film you are able to see of Jermaine Burton and saying he looks good. Seeing Joe Burrow say the same thing about practice and a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff is great to hear, because all we've heard about Jermaine Burton is that he's not high on the depth chart because of mental issues or not taking it seriously or not working hard enough. If that's the case, your quarterback's not sitting there for 4 minutes and endorsing you to get more playing time. So I think a lot of that stuff's out the window for me. I think this kind of goes back to the classic Bengals mindset of not playing young guys until they earn it. And I think at this point, whether Jermaine Burton's earned it or not, we've seen that he's probably the best option, or at least the most exciting option. And sitting at 3 and 5, you have to see what you have in him, with T. Higgins being prepared to leave, and he needs to get more reps.
When you said, are the Bengals too T and Jamar centric? Yes, but when they play together, it doesn't matter because you have them there and they're able to go. If you have 2 elite pass catchers, you can supplement the rest of your targets and receptions, spread them out among, I don't want to call it the bottom of the barrel, but it's the Eric Alls and the Yoshivases and maybe a couple to Mike Gesicki here and there, when those 2 are healthy. But when one of them is gone, then it becomes abundantly clear that just having an offense that revolves around those 2 isn't going to work. It's not going to be a fruitful offense. So I would have Jermaine Burton play significant snaps starting this Sunday. You're playing the Raiders. It's not a good team. It's good practice for him, if anything. And if T. Higgins certainly isn't ready to go, then I don't understand why he doesn't see more reps.
And it's not even like he has to take all of T. Higgins' snaps either. I mean, Mike Gesicki filled in pretty decently for him since he's been out. So I want to see more Jermaine Burton. The one thing I took away from what Joe Burrow said was that he does things that you can't teach. And that's separation, that's the hand fighting, that's a lot of the separation conversation that we have that our receivers, besides T and Joe or Jamar, struggle with tremendously. So I feel like that was Joe kind of saying, like, maybe he's not all the way 100% knowledgeable of the playbook, but he's too good not to have out there. And that's what I feel like we've been advocating for a while with this guy. And I'm glad that we're maybe stepping in the right direction, because it wasn't just Joe that said that he was going to get more playing time. I think even Dan Pitcher said something like that as well, that he deserved more playing time. Zach Taylor, I believe, even said something similar to that note as well. So I expect to see him out there a lot versus the Raiders, and I hope that we get to see him targeted quite a few times.
I'm willing to bet he'll be the third highest receiver in snap count. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to put him in over Yoshivas. I have faith because I don't know what you're waiting for at this point. Because if you were waiting for an endorsement from some of the players, you got it. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, what are you waiting for if you're Zach Taylor? Because we've seen time and time again that Charlie Jones was out there for 15 snaps and didn't even get a target. Why is he getting any snaps? Burton, I know, got over 20 snaps, which was the most he's had on the season by far. Hopefully that keeps trending up. If not this week, hopefully next week or the week after, he's able to surpass Yoshi as that third wide receiver on the team. It's all going to come down to whether he runs the right routes and knows whether he's on the field or not, because there's only so many gimmick plays and stuff you can do. There's only so much expectation you can put on Joe Burrow to call a play in the huddle and then tell Jermaine Burton where to line up and run a route. So
right.
As long as he gets all that stuff down, I think he'll be the wide receiver 3. But even if he doesn't, he needs to play more.
Yeah, and I guess we'll have this conversation if it happens. If he plays really well this upcoming week, about why it took so long for this to finally come to fruition. Because
Bingo.
I really, you have to really look at this coaching staff and how much they've struggled this season with, and actually really just this whole tenure of this team. They've really struggled to develop young guys, young talent that weren't top 5 picks in the draft like Joe and Jamar was. I think well, I'm hoping for the best, and I'm not going to go down this route yet, but it's something to look at.
Yeah.
If Jermaine Burton plays really well this upcoming week, I'm going to have some serious questions for this coaching staff moving forward. Very serious questions.
It's a weird spot for them to be in because you have to play Burton because he's proving that he's good enough to play. And if you play him and he makes an immediate impact, what were you doing for the first 8 weeks of the season?
Exactly.
So it's a tough spot for this coaching staff to be in, but at this point you have to save the season and play the better players and swallow your pride.
Yep, and it's like you guys talked. It's one thing, too, if T's healthy, and you're just making the argument about the number 3 spot, but with T, he didn't practice yesterday either. Mm-hmm. Don't know what the status for him. I mean, do you guys think he plays?
I don't.
So if he's not playing, that's even more reason to be clamoring for more of Jermaine Burton in this particular situation.
I just think the Bengals believe that they can beat the Raiders without T. Higgins, and you're going to hold him out and make sure he's 100% for that Ravens game.
Raven on a short week.
Yep.
On top of that, that's wild that that's coming up.
I know.
I mean, a week from tonight, Thursday Night Football, that's a big one. I mean, I don't know how many times we've said this, the Bengals season's on the line, but I do feel like, you got to beat the Raiders. But the 2024 season is on the line a week from tonight when they play the Ravens, because you lose to the Ravens, that's it. At that point, I'm out on Cincinnati. Even if they beat the Raiders and lose to the Ravens next week, I'm out on the Bengals, because beating all the bad teams is great, but you've yet to prove you could beat a good team. And at that point, that's another AFC loss, and you're basically, you've pretty much said their playoff chances are pretty shot to begin with.
Yeah.
But that would almost make it impossible at that point with the second loss against Baltimore a week from today. But they got to get through the Raiders first. Probably going to be without T, as you guys talked about.
Week by week.
But for more from that press conference yesterday, reporters had asked Joe Burrow his thoughts on, hey, Joe, do you pay attention to what the Bills are doing? Going to get Amari Cooper. If you paid attention to the Jets, going to get Devontae Adams. The Chiefs, they get a nice piece on both sides of the ball. They keep adding to their roster. And Joe Burrow just very short, very quick, and probably the best answer you can give, but also giving more than one answer. It's not my job. Every time they would ask him about the other teams making moves, it's not my job. I don't know. It just seemed very short, and that's the one answer he gave that he seemed a little impatient with. Not my job.
I don't know how you want him to respond to it, because it's like, hey, are you paying attention to all the other franchises that are making moves and trying, and do you see all the other teams that are winning? He could then go say, yeah, and I wish that was us. It would be a bad look, because it seems like he's calling out his team. So he answered it as well as he could from a PR standpoint. At least that's what I took away. It's better. Listen, I'll take those answers than whatever the hell's going on with the Colts, and nobody knows how to answer those questions. So I'll take I'm good. I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job.
I took that. I took it, just the tone and the way he said it and the way he answered the other questions. I took it as, I'm doing my job. That's not my job. Those people need to do their job.
Yeah,
that's how I took it. I'm doing what I'm asked to do, and there's a lot of people in this building that are not doing their job.
That's how I felt too. I don't know why. It was just the tone, and because he
was
you said,
upbeat.
he was short. He was kind of impatient about it. It's not his job, and he's right. It's not his job. to make the team better.
Right.
But there's a guy in the building that said that he's refusing to make other teams better to make his team better. Doesn't make sense.
Just touching on the Colts situation, because you said it was going so poorly. Anthony Richardson said Shane Steichen hasn't told him why he's being benched, just that he was being benched. And wide receiver one Michael Pittman found out about the quarterback change through social media.
Tough.
Wow.
It's tough.
What a disaster.
Yeah, so as more came out, I'm fine with the move. It don't bother me. It
That's fair.
doesn't. It does. Like, but this is one of those where I see both sides. I'll never fault the team for making a decision that they think puts them in a better position to win. And that I do believe Flacco puts them in a better position to win now, not big picture, but now. Yeah.
The biggest PR disaster of that whole thing was when the reporters asked him, "Hey, you said that the best way to develop a quarterback is to play through games. What's changed?" And he said, "Well, things change, and we're going to go in a different direction here, and he's going to sit and learn behind Joe Flacco." That was not what I expected at all. Like, I mean, it was just another disaster. Like, he had to backtrack everything he said about developing quarterback play, and now you're answering these questions and trying to communicate with your team why you did so, and it looks bad.
Josh
really
Downs on if he thinks he'll play with Anthony Richardson again, quote, "At the end of the day, Joe Flacco is like 40 years old, so he only has so many more years. I'd say AR is 22 or 23. He's still the number 4 overall pick. I know he's going to start again."
Yeah, everything coming out of the locker room certainly seems like they'd rather play with AR. I don't know. Certainly interesting. Either way, whichever way you stand on benching AR for Flacco, I think we can all agree it was handled incredibly poorly by Steichen.
It was handled the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, if you notice the phrasing of it all, like when Cleveland was making all their decisions on stuff, they never really put the name of who's making these decisions on it. The Colts keep putting Steichen's name on it. Coach's decision. Even the headlines on ESPN, CBS, others, I've been paying attention to that. Steichen decides to make a coaching move or a quarterback change. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they continue. And like he said in that press conference, he made the decision. Yeah. And I'm sure, there's probably some support from up top. My only pushback on that, like, they say, okay, for him to learn how to play, he needs to be out there. And I know I said this yesterday. Jordan Love didn't have to be out there for the first couple of years he was a Packer to learn how to play. Lamar didn't play the first 8 or 9 games of his career, and he came out right away and played. I don't think you have to.
I agree with you on that sentiment, but when your coach already said when they drafted him, he's going to go out there and play games
work
to develop.
through it.
Yeah, he's going to work through it, and then you backtrack after 10 games. It's not a good look.
But it's not. He wasn't even average, though. That's the problem. Now, everything you said yesterday, this is where I start to wean back to your side a bit when you look at the adjusted rate, like when you start to look at the adjusted analytics and everything else that show, okay, there's a lot of things that have led to some of the deficiencies within his game. But at the end of the day, like them being a 500, I think is also the problem. I think if they were
100%.
bad, if they were bad as a whole, it's like, well, just keep going out there, young fella. But I think they're trying to do this internal thing of we're 4-4. The AFC stinks. We can't just, if they don't feel that they're a playoff team with Richardson at quarterback, at least right now. They feel like they could lose the playoff spot if they continue with Richardson. If they're a bad football team, they're 2-6 like the Browns or 2-6 like the Jets, they could say, you know what? Go get him. And I think that's what the Browns were thinking too when they went to DTR. I think they're actually in a very similar situation. The Browns are in a very similar situation, and they're going that route too, except DTR didn't have the expectations and wasn't drafted high like Richardson.
Right.
But there you go. The 4-4 record is the biggest problem for the Colts.
100%.
The
I
identity
agree.
crisis that they have.
The thing I keep going back to Anthony Richardson, and when you talk about a lot of these guys that sat and learned on the bench, a lot of those guys had started for multiple years in college and played a lot of football under their belt. Anthony Richardson just simply hasn't played football. And I think once you make the proclamation that you're going to let him play through struggles, to go back on it when he struggles as if you're surprised that he's struggling, that's where you lose me. But I certainly understand that Flacco gives him a better chance to win. I've never once argued that. I think he does. I just think big picture, it's questionable. We'll see, though. If Flacco goes out there and leads them to the playoffs, then it's the right decision. So we'll see.
Justin Edgel, $1.99 super chat. The coaching staff is garbage. TV 24.
That was a good garbage.
You like that?
It was close. It's pretty good.
I thought it was.
Do you think that they're garbage?
The coaching staff?
Yeah.
I think it's time. I think it's time to move on. Yeah. it's great. Again, I can only say it's great what happened 4 years or 3 years ago so many times. You have Joe Burrow, you have Jamar Chase, you have weapons, you have a good offensive line, a better offensive line. There shouldn't really be this many excuses as to why you're not winning football games.
Who are you talking about?
Are you talking about the Colts? Or are you talking
Yes,
about the Bengals?
the Colts.
Well, I was talking about the Bengals just because that super chat was about the Bengals. But
I thought we're talking Colts. So when you
Correct.
read that, I took that from the Colts perspective.
No, you're good. But either way, the Colts coaching staff, I don't blame them for this. I think, especially who was the guy that drafted him, the GM, whoever the GM.
Well, it was Steichen's first year there.
Yeah, but he was the one who drafted him, right?
He was the coach when they drafted him.
Steichen. Okay, all right. Then if that's the case, then
He was hired in that offseason after Philadelphia went to the Super Bowl, and he drafted Anthony Richardson to be his Jalen
It's a bad move. It's a bad move, is what it is. It's a terrible move. So I don't blame the coaching staff. I think it was handled poorly, but they're putting the guy who can at least throw the football in games.
I see a lot of people saying, Colts fans saying that it was either an ownership or GM move, they think, not a Steichen move. So that would certainly make it interesting. Maybe he's just following marching orders with how he's speaking to the media. That would, certainly throw a wrinkle in the whole thing.
Yep. All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. I think in the existence of this show, I don't think the Colts have ever been talked about more than
in
the last 2 days.
Yeah, no. Shout out to all our 4 Colts fans, friends in the chat.
There's some Colts fans. Big C he tweeted at us yesterday. He's a big Colts fan, so we got some Colts fans here.
Chase and Colin.
And by the way, look, the Bengals win on Sunday. You're 4 and what would they be, 4 and 6 or whatever. So 4 and 5. You're back to within a game of 500. You're back talking about the playoffs. Guess who you're going to be competing with to get to the play? Like the Colts. That's why I've always said, when people question why I talk so much about certain teams, because those teams are in your way, or those are the teams that you're competing against to make the playoffs. So when the Colts made that decision to try to win games by going the route of Joe Flacco, that does impact the Bengals because, again, you're going to be fighting for one of those final spots against teams like the Colts, and that's why beating the Raiders on Sunday is so crucial. With that, especially heading into the Ravens coming up a week from tonight. All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll talk a little Bengals coming up when we come back. Jacob and Casey, I know we were kind of, we talk a lot of draft. Jacob can't wait to get into the draft.
Can't wait.
There's always those guys that you hope your teams take. And then when your team doesn't take those guys, you either sit back and say, well, man, that's great because we actually picked this guy who's doing really well. Or, man, imagine how much better we would be if they actually would have taken the guy we wanted. Well, that's what Jacob and Casey are going to do. They're going to comb through a couple of picks that the Bengals did not make that they wish they would have. How much better would they be with those particular individuals? Or did they dodge a bullet? We'll discuss that when we come back. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Elliot disappeared in the peanut butter. College football stuff coming up around the corner. Final audition weekend before the very first college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. And we're going to talk about which teams have the most to prove heading into the weekend of college football. But we'll continue talking a little bit of Cincinnati Bengals, of course. The other day, the show ended. You guys were kind of talking draft. And talking about the draft picks that have been hits for the Bengals, which ones have worked out, which ones have not. And then you started talking about some of the key pieces that you wish that the Bengals would have taken and how those individuals are performing up to this point of the season.
Yeah, that's right. And for me, there's 2 that stick out the biggest for me, 2 guys that I really, really wanted, and 2 guys that play for the same team. Washington Commanders. They're doing all right, aren't they? Got a pretty good quarterback and a pretty good coaching staff. They're doing all right. It's amazing what happens when you hit in the middle rounds of the draft. It's almost like you can speed along the rebuilding process. The Commanders 4 picks after the Bengals took Jackson Carman.
Yeah.
The Washington Commanders took the offensive lineman that I wanted at that spot, Sam Cosmi, a tackle out of Texas. Sam Cosmi, in his couple years in the league, has played both right tackle and guard. He's incredibly versatile. He was a top 100 PFF graded player in the entire league last year, 98. 5th highest run blocking guard in the entire league in his career. Phenomenal. We're talking about a 2nd-round pick. Just a handful of picks after we took a tackle who we cut this year, still on his rookie contract. It's amazing how much just changing 1 or 2 things can bolster an entire team. I mean, you plug Sam Cosmi in for Cordell Volson or Alex Kappa in this starting offensive line, who knows how big of a difference that can make. He's already the most athletic lineman on this team if you go by Casey's RAS score. This offensive line is the least athletic unit in the entire league, and that rears its head every time we try to run the ball. These guys can't move. If you watch Chatterbox Bengals on Tuesday night, we broke down some of the film. Zach Moss on that 3rd and 1 that we talked about a ton, right before that 4th down swing play, was a run to a wide open gap if Ted Karras is able to get to the second level. Well, he's not athletic enough to get to Nakobe Dean, who flies around the corner and fills that hole and shuts up Zach Moss for no gain, and we have to run that swing pass and punt it and turn it over on downs. Sam Cosmi gives a little athleticism to that offensive line, probably changes a lot of things in this run game and pass game, would have been a great addition to this team. Another guy on the Commanders that I absolutely loved this year and really wanted to come in. Maybe not fair to say a rookie's already proven it, but I'm going to. I'm willing to take that leap. Jerzahan Newton, the interior D lineman out of Illinois. I loved him coming out of the draft. He had a Jones fracture in his foot, which caused him to fall out of the first round. We later found out after the draft that he had played through that injury his last 2 years of college.
Oh, boy.
And he was an All-American level interior D lineman. So almost like when you have an injury and you play through it at an All-American level and you get it fixed, you're going to be even better. And that's exactly what we've seen from Newton so far this year. His second start of the season, now that he's healthy, he had 7 pressures and 2 sacks. Do you know where 7 pressures would rank on the Bengals? Again, 1 game for Jerzahan Newton. Do you know where 7 pressures would rank on the Bengals this year?
Second.
That's right. Right behind Trey Hendrickson, 1 more than Sam Wilson. There's not even seemed incredibly easy.
Have missed on throughout the years. I have looked back at some deeper drafts. Like 2015 is one that will always be remembered in my mind as a complete whiff by the Bengals. We pick up Cedric Ogbuehi with our first
Great
pick of
pick.
the draft.
But he was ready to go. Cedric Ogbuehi was ready to play, right?
No, he had a broken back.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Towards
he had a broken
ACL in
back.
the last 2 weeks.
Quite literally, the next tackle taken on the draft was DJ Humphries, who started since he was in the league.
Well, if you want to feel even
As a
worse,
linebacker.
just look at linemen we've taken and the next lineman after.
Yeah, and then
every time.
And then we go to like Donovan Smith was also a tackle we could have taken.
Yep.
Like that. Those are the 2 next tackles taken on that draft, and they both were amazing. Had great careers with their teams. And then like you talk about like Jake Fisher, who ended up being more of like a guard, but still the next tackle taken was Rob Havenstein, and he also had a great career with the Rams. I mean, that entire draft class was absolutely abysmal, and it started the downfall of the Andy Dalton era.
Absolutely.
And those guys would probably not be with the team today, honestly, because of how we do contracts. But it certainly is a key factor when you're looking at how we've drafted over the years with Duke Tobin at the helm. I look at the 2017 draft. We picked John Ross.
Great pick.
Right
Great
after that.
pick. I tell you what, it didn't happen, Casey, but they were saying he was going to race Billy Hamilton.
That would have been cool.
And and they were going to put, I think, like a real cheetah next to him. And I think that would have all 3 raced.
That would have been
wow,
awesome.
Really?
It didn't happen, but
I mean, no one of importance went. Well, we took John Ross 9th. No one of importance went like 10th.
No, just Patrick Mahomes.
No, that's right.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes. And even if we weren't going to pick a quarterback, Marshawn Lattimore was next. Hassan Reddick was right after that. I'm not going to mention Deshaun Watson. Malik Hooker, Marlon Humphreys, Jonathan Allen, any of those guys would have been better than John Ross. So.
But John Ross was certainly a projected first-round pick before he ran fast in shorts and a T-shirt, right?
no.
No.
Shoot. Not quite.
He doesn't even hold that record anymore, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Correct.
Xavier Worthy broke it. And this is the thing that you're seeing now as we talk through some of these picks that makes me the most frustrated is on draft night, you can say a lot of these picks are bad. And that's the thing is it's not even revisionist history to say the front office has been bad. Yeah. On draft night, usually not round 1, more in like round 2 and 3 for this Bengals, especially in recency, it's been horrible. And I've said it in April, which makes it so much more frustrating when we get to here and those guys can't perform is because all you're hoping for going through the whole offseason and into the season is that someone surprises you. And when you're at that point with your draft class before you even see them play, no expectations for elite players, it's a terrible place to be. One that's a little bit different than the ones we've talked about so far just because the guy went the pick before us, not after us, but a guy I wanted really, really bad, and we're seeing him play at an incredibly high level in Kansas City, George Karlaftis. There was a lot of connection between the Bengals and Karlaftis when he was coming out of Purdue in that draft. Went 1 pick before the Bengals at 30. Bengals picked 31, took Dax Hill. We all know how that pans out. We talk about pass rush all the time. how great would this defense be with Trey Hendrickson and George Karlaftis rushing the passer?
Let's talk about another guy that's similar to that sort of scenario you're talking about. The 2018 draft and Billy Price.
Yes.
Frank Ragnow sniped right in front of us. That was an awful, awful move. That was going to shape up to be one of our better off seasons of all time because we traded for Cordy Glenn. That was going to be our left tackle for the next 3 years. And then Frank Ragnow.
He's one of the best centers in football.
He's one of the best centers in football. Would have been a fantastic offensive line rebuild. Instead, we get Billy Price, and it's a disaster from there. The rest of the draft, not great. Not even going to bother mentioning some of it because you could have literally picked anyone after Jesse Bates, and it would have been a phenomenal draft, pretty much. So
the Billy Price pick, that obviously did not go well.
He was so good at Ohio State.
But that was going to be my point. The reason sometimes we hold all the busts against the Bengals, but at that time, Billy Price, every Bengals fan was excited about that. I even said that was a good draft pick. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. It didn't pan out, but that's why.
I didn't think it was a good draft pick.
I know a lot of people didn't like it. He's undersized. He didn't play a whole lot of center. He played a lot of guard. And he
had a first-round grade, too.
The 1 year at center. Yeah, it was him and Ragnow were the top two centers, no question about it, on every single board. But I know, at least personally, I really wanted Ragnow. I was happy with the Billy Price pick. I'm not going to act like I was upset on draft night, and maybe part of that was because I am an Ohio State fan. But a lot of people were not happy with that pick. That was one because of his size that a lot of people were worried about. Bengals did salvage that, though. Billy Price contributing to this team on a weekly basis in the form of B.J. Hill.
I was going to say, B.J. Hill, we nailed that draft pick.
That's right.
We nailed it.
B.J. Hill, first-round pick.
Yes.
No, not quite. But, you can go back even to, the first draft class of Zach Taylor era. Drew Sample being the second-round pick. That's kind of a reach. We all knew that. But guys that were picked right after that, DK Metcalf, Juwan Thornhill, all those guys, way more better contributors to their teams than Drew Sample's ever been.
DK Metcalf and Juwan Thornhill especially, two guys with first-round grades that fell out of the first round into the second round, and the Bengals draft a blocking tight end, who was a fourth or fifth-round grade?
Correct. Yeah. And we can keep going. We can go as far as the 2021 draft class, which I think you already touched on a little bit, of course, with the Cosme and Jackson Carman fiasco there. I mean, let's go all the way to.
I mean, you can go a little deeper than just Cosme. Even after Jackson Carman, you go Azeez Ojulari, Sam Cosme, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Dylan Raduns, Pat Freiermuth, Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, Josh Myers.
We picked Joseph.
These are contributors on competitive teams.
Josh Myers, Centerville or Miamisburg. I'm sorry, Miamisburg.
We picked Joseph Osai, and then literally 3 or 4 picks after that. Here are the list of names: Brady Christensen, Aaron Robinson, Aleem McNeil, Milton Williams, Odighizawa. All those guys are targets that we're looking at in this upcoming free agency.
Yeah.
I mean, unreal.
The Joseph Osai pick, too, was another one that wasn't bad at the time.
I was over the moon.
That was a good pick at the time.
Yeah.
That is one of the most excited I've ever been about. His
two biggest plays, though.
Yeah.
The sack on the very first preseason game against Tom Brady, of course, and then the injury, unfortunately, and then, of course, the penalty in the AFC Championship game. Those are the two biggest plays I remember with him.
No, you're right.
They're not good, unfortunately. The sack was great because, to make a name for yourself, getting to Tom Brady right off the bat, but then the season-ending injury that came with it. Devastating. But that's one that I thought would pan out. I thought that was a good pass rush get.
Yeah, he's a guy that I was very, very high on coming out of Texas. I thought he was going to be a great edge rusher. I was surprised he was still there in the third round. But obviously hasn't panned out. These last few games have been some of his best games in a Bengals uniform, so maybe we can get a couple year-in bump, but I certainly wouldn't hold my breath for that.
Yeah, one of the knocks on him was just the size, right? And I just there's a reason. I feel like you can look at it both ways. You draft guys that are falling that have really high grades, right? Like Osai, he had a fringe first-round grade. You draft him. That was a smart move. But in the flip side of it, there's maybe a reason why he's falling
100%.
At the same time. And we've seen that now with Miles Murphy, who's not produced to the level that we thought he would.
Dax.
And so it's they've been burnt both ways. So it's really hard to do this sort of segment here that we're doing, saying revisionist history, like they could have easily made a selection here or there. And so now what I'm going to do, shift the focus on, it wasn't necessarily bad draft choices. What if it was just coaching staff? What if it's just they can't develop players? And back to the conversation about Jermaine Burton, if he ends up playing well, what were we doing? How would we not see that at practice and not apply it to our game, right? How can we continue to trust the staff with any draft selection if this is what's going to keep continuing to happen?
Who offensively has gotten better since they got to Cincinnati in terms of development under Zach Taylor? I would argue Joe Burrow was already great. Jamar Chase was already great. T. Higgins was already great. Joe Mixon was taken late in the draft, but he was a first-round draft pick before his off-the-field issues. He fell in the draft. He was great. The O-line is all free agents.
The only, Volson is still at that same level.
Has he improved?
Drew Sample has improved.
Yeah, we're hanging our hat on Drew Sample.
Marginally, I
He
guess.
got a touchdown.
I guess.
A couple of them.
But you could argue that not very many guys.
That's what I'm saying.
You could argue the same thing with the defense.
You could. But I would argue that both linebackers and Jesse kind of give them a pass on defense.
Okay. But still.
But you're absolutely right. For the most part, and especially early picks, they have not had a chance or done a good job at all of developing them. I mean, Dax Hill, they just gave up on developing him at safety. Like, we'll just throw him somewhere else.
Did John Ross contribute more right off the bat than Burton?
Yeah, John Ross had a touchdown in his first game.
I was going to say, I think he had a 100-yard game.
He had the same exact play the Chiefs ran for Xavier Worthy's first touch.
Really?
We ran for John Ross's first touch.
Okay.
The fly motion orbit behind the quarterback pitch.
Yeah. One of the things, too, that Everett's pointing out, Jesse isn't here. That's the thing is
100%.
When you suck at developing talent,
100%.
The talent that you do develop, you got to keep. You got to keep it here. And the team, they're damned right now. I mean, they just can't develop, and they can't keep guys here, and they can't bring in talent that's worth anything. And so we're just stuck here with this amalgamation of just
That's a good word.
misfires. And it's a talent evaluation issue, and it's been like that for a while. Sometimes they get a little lucky, and you see what happens in 2020 and 2021. Well, part of 2021, and it's just like you got lucky, and now we're back to seeing what their true colors are in a way.
Anyone that's heard me talk about the Jesse Bates situation, you know where I stand on whether or not we should have signed Jesse Bates long term. But the best argument that I've ever heard for the pro extend Jesse Bates side is, what do you draft for if you don't extend Jesse Bates? What's the point of hitting on draft picks if you get a guy in the mid rounds that's an all-pro level player and you let him walk? Why do we even talk about the draft? What's it for if a guy's only a 3-year rental and you let him walk to someone else? So that's certainly the best point that I've heard and is getting me to lean into it a little bit more, especially as we've seen how poor the replacement plans have gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me is we wouldn't talk about Jesse Bates if this team was able to replace him. And whether that's a front office problem or a you can't replace Jesse Bates problem, I don't know that we'll ever know. But there certainly is people on both sides of that.
Yeah, I will forever be in favor of keeping all-pro talent.
And that's completely fair.
Like the Chiefs, they keep moving on, like from Juwan Thornhill, who won a Super Bowl with, Darius Sneed, just various players, and they keep going. It doesn't impact them. The fact, you're right, though, the fact that we keep bringing up Jesse Bates, that should be an afterthought. By the way, in Thornhill, when he's healthy, very good.
Very good.
But the Chiefs aren't like, oh, man,
well, they keep
we could have kept Thornhill, man. Imagine what we'd be,
The only player that they got rid of that was all-pro was Tyreek Hill. But the thing is, they had an other all-pro Hall of Famer in not Tyreek Hill, I'm sorry, and Travis Kelce to be able to help supplement some of that, those issues. They were able to go get other talent that was at a not elite level, but a star level, like Juju, like other guys.
BC level players.
Defense, and then defense, they kept their all-pro defensive tackle. Whatever you think about the corners that they've let go, they were not all-pro Hall of Fame level caliber corners. They were decent. They were top 10 corners, but they let them go because they were not all pros. They keep their all-pro talent. The Bengals have let go their all-pro
Well,
talent.
to be fair, they can keep their all-pro talent because they didn't give $30 million to a receiver.
That's it. Yeah.
And I've always said what benefited them, because people right away always say, well, they have a future Hall of Fame tight end that they kept. Yeah, because the most expensive tight end in football is $15 million a year.
They got very lucky on the draw.
And
we can look at it like that because they were
Eric
able
Hall.
to. Yeah, the tight end, the position just is severely
All in.
underpaid.
Going to go all in.
I'm Eric all in.
I'm Eric Allin as well.
So, and that's where the big question about who's the Raiders tight end.
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers. When the debate at the draft last year about the Bengals, and I kept saying, I was all about Bowers if he fell to the Bengals, and everyone said, well, they don't utilize their tight ends. I'm like, well, you maybe you should start. Maybe you should start, because if you look at the successful teams consistently throughout, the one reason that you're able to adapt to losing key talent at wide receiver is because you have, and by the way, you could have the most elite tight end in football, pay him $15 million. And you're going to get the production of what you would get from a number one wide receiver at double the price. That's one reason the Chiefs have been able to keep that going. The money they saved on moving on from Tyreek Hill, they could put into Jones, they could put into their corners, they could put into the defense. But they've hit on a lot of draft picks too. It's not just that $15 million a year they saved by moving on from Tyreek Hill that led to their success. There's so many things that have to go right for you to build that. It's not just one way, like the Patriot way. It wasn't just one thing. Oh, Tom Brady didn't take all the money he had coming to him. You think by the way, he took $5 to $6 million less a year than everybody else. That's not the Patriot way. Like,
the one nugget of that the Tom Brady pay cut conversation that we always leave out is the millionaire wife.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the
sugar mama.
Yeah. Like he didn't need the money. The family had another source of income.
Yeah.
So
Brock Bowers leads the league in receptions, by the way.
Oh, Brock Bowers is great.
Number one in receptions.
Great, and to be fair, it's not like Bengals fans were wrong when they said, well, we don't utilize our tight ends, and you're right. So maybe that wouldn't make sense to go that route. But at the same time, now is probably a good time to start leaning into your tight end if you had one that's like that. But maybe they do an all. All could be one of those.
I think
that was a
Hall's
sneaky
really
good get. That was
good.
I do too. This last class is giving me hope that maybe there's some light at the end of this tunnel, that maybe they struck gold once again. But they have to do it again, and then probably do it a third time, which is just a tall task at this moment. And they could do it multiple ways. They could do it through free agency. They could do it through the draft. But right now, at this very second, I don't trust them to do it through the draft. In free agency, the money that they used to be able to get with the $100 million that they were getting every offseason is not there anymore. And that's the window that we talked about with Joe Burrow. It's starting to shrink. I'm just hoping that we can figure out the best combination of guys that can give us the best chance to win.
The thing that people always freak out about when I've said over the last couple of weeks is I think it's going to take a 2 to 3 year rebuild to get this team back to a point where I'm really confident in this roster winning a Super Bowl, and we can win during that rebuild. 2021, I wouldn't say I was confident in that roster going to a Super Bowl, and they did. So I'm not saying that you can't win in that period, but a 2-3 year rebuild is what I think it will take to get more confident in this roster top to bottom. Hopefully, year one just happened.
Right.
If we hit on all these draft picks, that's year one.
Yeah.
And then we have year two this year, and then hopefully we can compete right away, and then year three the year after. It's not as big of a gap as you think if you're actually hitting on draft picks. You can really speed that process up.
Yeah.
And this draft, most recent one, could stop the bleeding a bit.
It's too early to say, but when you go Mims, Jenkins, who's looked good, All, who's looked good, Burton, who hopefully can show some more, McKinley Jackson's played a lot, Matt Lee we're excited about, 7th round pick at center, Deshaun Anthony already getting in on packages, 6th round safety. Like, if you hit on that many players, it's pretty
that
important.
many less holes
Exactly.
that you have to try to patch
Even
up.
if they're rotational guys.
I just got the sign from the peanut
You're
butter
getting
man.
cut off by the peanut butter
By
man?
the peanut butter man. Peanut butter jelly
That was
time.
another 30-minute segment.
Oh, it's a great segment, though.
It's a great segment. I'm just telling you.
All right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. Final audition weekend, college football before the 12-team college football playoff rankings are announced on Tuesday. Which teams have the most to prove? Heading into the weekend, we'll get to all of that as we wrap up the radio side when we come back. What? What were you gonna say? Yeah,
Huh?
you.
Oh, he's got a quip. He's got a quip
I
loaded.
didn't have any quip. I didn't have any
No,
quip.
no, you have a tell. You
I didn't
always
have any quip.
You have a tell, and it's fine.
What's my
because you
tell?
make everyone laugh all the time.
my tell?
Your chin goes up. Like when you have something to say, the chin goes up. Like we're
Well,
waiting.
he has to get it out of the peanut
Yes,
butter.
but the peanut butter thing, it could be that. Maybe that wasn't. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Happy Halloween. Peanut butter jelly time. We got jelly, ladies and gentlemen. Can he work with no eyes? Let's see. Oh, that's me.
No, it's not.
No. Oh, the TV switched.
They did.
The TV switched. Oh, there we go. There's jelly. Where's peanut butter?
There's peanut butter.
Hey. Oh, there we go. There we go. And there's Reed Mouse, everybody.
That's right.
Not
Happy to be
Mickey
back.
Mouse. Not Mickey Mouse.
No,
Reed Mouse.
not Mickey Mouse.
All right, we wrap up the radio portion of the show today.
Brian accused you of not combing your hair. Is that? Or can you confirm or deny that?
Not combing my hair.
I said your hair looks phenomenal.
That's what I thought too. But Brian said you didn't
just
comb
this, It's just this side. This is my bad side.
Casey, don't you let them talk about your hair, man.
Toupee
It's
looks good
real.
today.
It's real.
it. Look at that tube.
Got that
Look
sucker
at that
stapled
tube.
in there.
Look at that tube.
Always making people self-conscious about their hair. That's what this show does to people, Casey. Don't you let them ruin your hair. I'm telling you right now. But, But do you? Did you comb it?
Yeah,
okay.
I did.
Fair enough.
I comb my hair. It's just.
It's real. I comb my hair. It's real.
See? It's real.
Oh man. All right. But there it is again. What?
No, I'm not going to say anything. I didn't have anything to say.
You have a quip.
No, I don't.
And it's okay. I'm not even making.
Just unload it.
Do you give out bricks for Halloween? You look like a guy who would leave out a pile of bricks and be like, "Here, kids, take a brick."
A brick?
Yeah, like bricks. Like, you know what a brick is? Like, I feel like Kenner gives out bricks.
No, I don't. Bricks.
No joke. On my old street, when I used to trick or treat, there was one family that would give out toothpaste, and they would do it with a straight face.
That'd be beneficial.
I
actually
remember.
wouldn't mind that.
I remember getting one. I remember reaching into because they were waiting. I said, "Oh, I say trick or treat," and I would reach into the jar and I out popped like a little thing of Colgate toothpaste. I remember I would, as soon as I walked away from, I threw it on the ground.
I would have cried. I think I would have sat down in their driveway and cried.
I threw it on the ground.
Now that I'm getting a little older, a little bit more mature, have to spend my own money on things, I think a toothpaste giveaway on Halloween I'd be happy about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm stoked for socks and underwear on Christmas at this point.
Yeah.
You need useful things.
Everett wants to know, do you give away broken glass?
Broken glass?
No.
Just
all weird
panes
things.
of broken glass?
Do you hide it in the candy? Is that the type of guy?
Best prank ever. But no, just to clarify.
You don't give out any candy.
No candy.
That's so sad, man.
It's not.
Why don't you?
Not
You ever
even
see
like
the
your old
the Larry David clip? Larry David is doing. It's on Curb, and these two teenage girls come over. They're like 18 years old, and they go over to his house like trick or treat, and they're not wearing any costumes. And Larry David's got a bowl of candy. He's like, "Why would I give this to you? You're not in a costume. How old are you?" And they both say they're 13, and he's like, "No, you're not. You're 18." And they say, "Just give me the candy, man." It's a very funny bit. It's a very funny bit. What's your favorite? Let me ask you this: since this is a silly segment, we've already lost this segment.
Yep.
What's your favorite Halloween episode of any TV show? Do you have a favorite one?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me think.
Halloween
What's
episode?
yours?
Halloween episode.
Because every like sitcom, a lot of the sitcoms, like I mean, obviously The Office always comes
The Office
to
is
mind.
always good. The deleted scene of The Office with the kids going through the maze is the best Halloween scene.
I like
ever.
that one a lot. The Parks and Rec one where Leslie Knope is trying to wait outside the statue and catch this one kid from Teen Thing. I like that one a lot.
Classic.
And the kid uses a fake mother. It's very, very funny.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, all the Halloween heists.
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah.
you ever watched that show, but it's really funny. Those are always good.
I'm trying to think of my favorite Office.
Are you a Halloween movie guy? Like, are you going to go this week or tonight and watch Halloween movies?
See, I don't
Charlie
like...
Brown and the Pumpkin, Jack Skellington.
No, I don't think so. I'm not a big scary movie guy. Now, those aren't really scary, but I'm not a big Halloween movie guy. I might go watch the Halloween episode of The Office where Oscar keeps saying he's the rational consumer.
Yes,
and
he
he's
wins.
he's trying to win the costume contest. That's probably one of the better ones, but
I might just watch all the Office Halloween episodes.
I might watch them all.
The one where I had to look up to see which episode it was, but when Pam is at her new job and she dresses up
as Charlie Chaplin.
But when she took the hat off, she's the only one that dressed up
Yes.
to work that day, and then she took the hat off, but she only had the weird little mustache in the middle, and then she looked like somebody.
Oh,
she
yeah.
looked like a garbage man.
Modern Family has always
really
good
good.
Halloween episodes. If you ever watch Modern Family, Claire's favorite holiday was Halloween, so they always every season they had a big Halloween episode. It was very, very funny.
But yeah, for one, Modern Family, very funny show. We like a lot of the same shows, Elliot.
I think
I'm a big Parks and Rec guy.
Yeah, I like Parks and Rec.
I'll watch Parks and Rec, and then I'll get to a point where I'm like, I think this is as good as The Office, and then I go back to The Office. I'm like, no, nothing.
Parks and
nothing
Rec
beats
to
The
me
Office.
just doesn't have the rewatchability The Office has.
No,
I like Parks and Rec a lot, but I don't like it as much rewatching it.
Parks and Rec's weird because after season 2, it became the show everybody loved.
Yes.
Season 1 and 2 were just so vastly. It was a vastly different show than what it became. Like there was Mark Brandanowitz, who became a character that was just like not a part of it at the end of it. And then you have the first season, which tried to very much be a replica of The Office. And then by the end of Parks and Rec, you don't even mention the cameras; it's just how they film it. Similarly to Modern Family, but it was funny. It was good. Sports.
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 Does NBA still go hard on Halloween? I saw there was only a couple games today. I thought
I didn't know
Halloween,
NBA Halloween was like a.
I thought it was always a thing. I could be wrong on that, but there was only 4 games, I think.
Yeah.
Who
I only
plays
like
tonight in the NFL.
Huh?
Who plays tonight in the NFL?
Texans Jets.
Oh yeah, there's an NFL game.
Really excited for that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be really scary watching the Jets operate.
Jets have to win
I
a game
know.
eventually. Jets have to win a game eventually.
By the way, you want to talk about? You mentioned the NBA and scary. How about this? Viewership in the NBA has been declining rapidly. ESPN's opening doubleheader averaged 1.6 million viewers. That is down 42% from last year.
Yeah, I don't think people care about the NBA at all.
Well, here's the thing about the NBA. The NBA players don't care about the NBA at all.
That is
So it's like, why would anybody watch it? I don't mean to come down on the NBA here, but when you have to make rules, you have to create rules that say you can't rest your players X amount of games because every team's resting them 25 games a season in an 82-game season. You got problems. I know Adam Silver's tried his best with his in-season tournament thing. He's trying his best. But why would anybody watch the NBA regular season when Joel Embiid openly doesn't care about it whatsoever? One of the best players in the league doesn't care about the regular season. It's a fantastic postseason. And the NBA postseason,
love the NBA
the NBA postseason is always one of the best postseasons in sports. But the regular season means nothing. 20 out of 30 teams make it. And if you have a losing record, you're still likely to go in it. You just can't be the Detroit Pistons or the San Antonio Spurs who win 12 games a year.
Our good friend Jimmy let me know last night the Pistons won a game.
Good for that.
So their first win of the
First
year.
one.
And they posted a video afterwards from the bench, and the caption was, "First of many."
Yeah.
Jimmy sent it to me and said, "We so sure?"
So, again, that was the doubleheader on ESPN on opening night. The Bucks versus the 76ers was 1.71 million viewers, which was down almost 50% from a year ago. The Suns-Clippers game, the TNT Thursday game, which was Spurs-Mavericks, that was a 29% decrease. And then ESPN's game on Friday night, which was Pacers-Knicks, who are two really good Eastern Conference teams, only 830,000 people watched that game. Less than a million. They said that is fewer than a lowly college football game on ESPN2 during the week. That's a problem. There has not been one game so far that has eclipsed the 5 most highest rated WNBA games. The WNBA is about to surpass the viewership not the popularity. They're about to surpass the viewership popularity of the NBA.
I just don't know why. I truly don't get why anybody would tune in anymore. The intensity's not there during the regular season, and the players openly don't care about it. So,
well, how about this? How about the one player that everyone loves to hate, which is the best player in the world, which is LeBron James? This is a guy that has continued to, while the league has shifted to want to not play, LeBron plays. I know he gets injured, but the guy's 40, so maybe give him a little bit of a pass. The guy doesn't want to rest. They literally have to force him to rest. He will not rest. As long as he's healthy, he is going to play. If there's ever a game that he has missed, it's not because he's feeling good, but just wants to rest his body. Probably a guy that you should be resting, not Joel Embiid. Well, Joel Embiid's a 7-foot guy that runs and dunks and shoots and does all this other stuff, but it's wild. The NBA has a problem. It really, really does. I love the NBA. I know you do too. I can acknowledge it stinks at times, and it's because of the players' mindsets.
40-year-old player in year 22 dropped a 30-point triple-double on the second leg of a back-to-back. than he played after the day off in the third game.
Yeah.
And
Joel
Embiid
Embiid
won't even
hasn't
play
played yet
back-to-back.
this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's an NBA problem as much as it's an entitled young stars problem.
That could be it. I just don't. When I used to watch, used to be a Cavs fan growing up when LeBron was there, and I'd go every day to whatever Fox Sports Ohio when it used to be Fox Sports Ohio, and I'd watch every game, and it just felt like a different game than it is now. And it is. It's a vastly different game. I just think it's not what I want to watch. Like when I come home from work, I don't want to sit home and watch every team chuck 48 threes a game. Like I'm not interested in 7-foot centers going out popping 6 threes a game. I know that's the way the world works. I know that's how the game's developed. It's just not my style of basketball.
All right, we wrap up the radio portion. College football coming up this weekend. With the first 12-team college football playoff rankings that come out on Tuesday. Teams with the most to prove. Which game do you believe? Like which team has to have a statement win this weekend heading into this very first? What was that? Anyway, sorry. It's just nothing. Never mind. Which team desperately needs a big performance this coming up weekend ahead of the 12-team playoff?
We did 3 segments on how Ryan Day can't beat good teams. I don't think there's a single team with more pressure than Ohio State. Whether you think Penn State's a championship contender or not, we can have that debate, but right now they're ranked as the 3rd best team in the country. And if you're able to go in there and get a win, that is a massive win. So I think it starts and ends with Ohio State, and I know that's the chalk answer because it's 3 versus 4. It's the biggest game of the week, but sometimes that just is the biggest game of the week. So it's Ohio State, it's Penn State. They have a lot to prove, both teams. I think if Penn State can finally prove they get over the hump and beat an Ohio State team, then you take them a little bit more seriously in the 12-team playoff. And Ohio State proves they can beat a top 5 team. I think that's the biggest game maybe of the entire season with what it means down the line.
I'm going to roll, and I like the Ohio State answer. I think that's probably more of the obvious answer. I'm going to roll with Indiana.
I love that.
I'm going to roll with Indiana, and here's why. It sounds like they're going to get Rourke back. And you got Michigan State, who they're better than.
They've been pesky, though.
And for 4-4, Michigan State's a quiet 500 team right now. But if Indiana goes and beats them down the way they did Nebraska when they had Rourke the last time, even though he was out for some of that game with the injury. But if they go out there like that Nebraska performance, if that's that final performance ahead of the release of the playoff, that would do wonders. If they can go and get a dominating performance, dominating win over Michigan State to prove to 9-0, to be 9-0, and just be pummeling teams the way they are and have an offensive identity, because that's what the committee cares about too. There's some teams who have very good records, but their offense kind of scares them off. Indiana checks off all the boxes. They check off the style points box. They check off the fact they have a star quarterback. They're undefeated. I think that there's a lot rolling for Indiana. I think if they win an ugly one, they'll still be fine. They're going to be in the rankings, I think. But if they dominate, I'm curious to see how high up those rankings they can be, because I think that they're a team that could be semi-rewarded by the committee with how dominant they've been. They haven't played a whole lot of anybody,
but they're winning.
But they've dominated their opponents,
Absolutely.
and I think that goes that says something about who they are.
One that's flying a little bit under the radar, 7:30 at night, A&M going to South Carolina, wondering what they're going to do with that quarterback situation. Marcel Reed obviously took over late in that game, more of a runner. South Carolina's defensive line is one of the best in the entire country. Their secondary, one of the worst. So even though Marcel Reed looked a lot better than Wegman, wouldn't be shocked if Wegman's going to start for A&M against South Carolina, and they go purely matchup-based the rest of this season.
All right, well, that wraps it up for us on the radio side. I think we're good, right?
We're good.
Okay, cool.
We're over, baby. That's all right.
Nah, just a little over, not a lot. But we got to go. We're out of time. Thank you for tuning in here on 1410 ESPN Radio. This has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett, Peanut Butter Jelly Time. Jacob was dressed as Reed Mouse, and that's his Halloween costume. I forgot that it was Halloween. I didn't wear a Halloween costume, but maybe next year I'll remember. But until then, this has been Off the Bench. All right, I want to figure out who. It's Bring Your Dog to Work Day, I guess. A lot of dogs out there.
I would have brought my
I've
dog.
seen 3 or 4 different dogs.
I would have brought my dog had I known.
We should all bring our dogs for the show one day and just see how bad of a show it is.
Yeah.
They would just bark and run around the studio the whole show, and we just have to try to talk over
Just
them.
shitting everywhere.
Yeah.
Just like,
it'd be terrible. It'd be terrible.
The dogs.
But it'd be
not,
fun.
Not us.
Well, I mean, I'm a mouse.
You know, little,
Get on all fours, crawl around, drop some
little Jacob
drop some
droppings.
pebbles. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nonsense.
So what are we going to talk about?
By the way, you said the spread's -4 Ohio State at Penn State.
Yes.
I've decided a bet I'm going to make on that.
Who?
Jacob said he's taking -20 alternate
I am
line
taking
against Penn
-20.
State. I'm going to take Penn State money line, and I'll tell you why. I think Ohio State is going to run that game out by. I think that it's probably -20 is honestly not bad. I think they might win by 3 touchdowns, which is why I'm so far on Ohio State that I have to take Penn State. So I've decided. I'm betting on Penn State. I'm very sorry to Ohio State fans.
I think that's good for Ohio State.
I think that's probably good for you too. If Ohio State loses to Penn State, there's like nothing happens, right?
No. There's certainly you get a little worried about making the playoff.
You have to win out at that point, but
You'd absolutely have to win out. There's no wiggle room, and you would need outside help. I mean, those teams do play each other, so it's more likely than not that you're going to end up in at 10-2. But they're not a lock to make it at 10-2. I mean, certainly would still be well over 50% if I had to guess, but
Yeah.
not a lock by any means. I don't think, just because you would be out of the Big Ten championship. You would be out, and that is a huge, huge deal in my opinion.
We had Jason Fitz, used to be at ESPN. He now covers college football for Yahoo Sports, and he does the show every week. And I'd asked him, I said, if Ohio State loses a close one against Penn State, that means they would and they win out. And Indiana's a wild card factor here, so keep that in mind. But I said, if can a Ohio State team with 2 losses, both losses being to the only 2 good teams that they've played, and wins over nothing but bad teams, is that good enough to get them in? He said it would have to be a close loss against Penn State. When he was working with the College Football Playoff Committee, the one thing that they've very much highly valued was quality losses.
Yeah.
He goes, got to love college football. It's the only thing in the world that you get rewarded for quality losses.
That's
and
right.
The one thing that Ohio State has, which is a semi-win, the one possession loss on the road at night against the number 1 undefeated team in the country, the Oregon Ducks, they have the most impressive loss of the season. No one has a more impressive loss of the season than Ohio State. He said, which is just as good.
Is
of a
Ohio
win.
State's loss to Oregon more impressive than Georgia's loss to Bama with that second half comeback?
If Bama was still undefeated.
Okay,
I'd
that's
say.
fair. That's fair.
And I think that's why he had worded it that way. He is out on Alabama making it
Yeah, I
with
am
one
too.
more loss, and he said they would need a lot more help. But Jason said he's adamant just based on his experience covering that playoff and working with the committee in the past that he feels that they're good even with the loss against Penn State, which I think that's why people hate college football. The people who hate the playoff, that's the problem that they have. And I thought of Elliott right away. If Ohio State loses this weekend, and Buckeye fans, we should just feel, oh, well, we couldn't beat Penn State, but don't worry, we're good because we got 2 good quality losses. Because Penn State would probably move up to number 2 in the country if that's the case. So who knows? Earlier, we talked about teams that need to have a big weekend. They're not playing anyone of significance, but a team that everyone's just ignoring and not talking about. They have a Heisman contender at quarterback, Miami. If Miami blows the doors off Duke, Miami could be a team that's propped very, very high atop these rankings when it's all said and done.
I am rooting for Miami very, very hard for these next 4 weeks because I want that spread against Clemson to get as big as possible in the ACC championship because I am very confident Clemson's going to beat that team in the ACC championship. I do not
you're
think
not high on Miami.
I do not think Miami is that good. I mean, they beat Virginia Tech on a Hail Mary that we talked about for days.
Yes.
They beat Cal by 1 point with one of the craziest comebacks we've ever seen. They beat Louisville 52-45. That's a Louisville offense that is not a 45-point offense.
Yeah.
This team's really good, talented. In Xavier Restrepo, Damian Martinez, Cam Ward, they have a very, very good team with stars. The defense is poor. Outside of those stars on offense, it's not very good. Are they going to be able to score a lot of points and beat probably the remaining 4 teams on their schedule? I would guess so. But I'm not scared of Miami in a championship sense. I'm just not. I don't think they have the pieces top to bottom on their roster. The one thing that does worry me is could Cam Ward just push him over the edge because he's that good, and maybe. He might just be that good.
So how many could realistically win a championship in your eyes this year?
In college football this year, realistically winning a championship, I think Georgia could, Oregon could, Ohio State could, Texas could. I think those are the only 4 teams that can win a championship.
There's only 4? That sounds right.
I don't think A&M
That
can.
sounds right. I just got to.
I don't think LSU can. I don't think Indiana can.
Penn State certainly
I
cannot.
don't think Penn State can. I don't think Tennessee's offense is consistent enough to. I don't think BYU's magic is going to last 16 games. We saw Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois. If they didn't lose that, they'd certainly be in that list.
Yeah.
So hold on. You said 4 teams, and we had to expand the playoff to give We'd expand it to 12.
It's almost like it's fine.
Yeah, but now those 4 teams automatically are getting in, so it's
Yeah. It's wild.
Those 4 teams that are, I guess they're in the same conference now, Oregon, Ohio State, but like old playoff, those 4 teams would have just won their conference.
probably
Big 12, SEC, Pac-12,
mostly.
Big 10.
That was always my biggest argument. And there's been years where they haven't found 3 teams good enough to win a national championship. And they've struggled to fill out the 4. There's been, times where there's the dominant 1, there's a competitive 2, wild card 3, and then the 4th one is the one that we're getting all the most angry about, when the 4th one very rarely has ever been good enough to win the title. I know Ohio State won the inaugural playoff as the 4. I think there was another. I think Bama won one as a 4 as well. I think 2 4 seeds, if that's what you want to call them, have won a national championship based on that. But again, a lot of teams in the mix. Obviously, Notre Dame, as we've talked about, Tennessee's interesting. Texas A&M, we mentioned them a little bit ago. None of these teams, I think, are good enough to win a national championship. Indiana, I'm pulling to get in the playoff. That'd be wild. Who would have ever thought that Indiana would have a legitimate shot at making the playoff? Now, again, a lot can happen in the final month of the season, but
the fact that them and Iowa State aren't ranked higher is mind-boggling.
It's the brand bias, which I don't blame. Brand bias is real. I think it's gonna. You have to earn that. Like there's sometimes like when a team loses and they don't really drop that far, it's because we know they're still good.
Yeah.
Like Indiana loses and everyone's gonna do the we knew it.
You're right. You're right. Indiana's going to drop from 11 to 27 when they go from 8-0 to 8-1.
Yeah.
Like it's incredibly frustrating. And Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, and they're ranked 8.
Northern Illinois, a good program. They were ranked this season.
Lost to Ball State this week.
How many losses do they have this year?
I think 3 or 4.
Oh no.
Bearcats. Who do they have this week?
Who do the Bearcats have this week? Let's see.
Northern Illinois is 4-4.
West Virginia,
and
that's
third
right.
to last in the MAC.
Tough. They were a good team, though.
That one Saturday afternoon, they sure were.
That's a good team. Yeah, the Bearcats should beat West Virginia. They'll get crushed by Iowa State. Probably crushed by Kansas State.
Is that in Ames?
You mean the Iowa State?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough place to play.
I don't think Bearcats aren't winning that game, but they can beat West Virginia. They need one more to go bowling. So
Garrett
let's go
Green,
bowling.
how's Garrett Green? Is he going to play? When's
that I
West
don't
Virginia?
know.
A couple weeks?
It's a week from. I think since he has
November
a bye
9th. November 9th.
Oh,
Since he has a bye this week.
Cool. So he probably won't be back then. That'd be big. I hope UC goes to a bowl game. That'd be huge for Satterfield and everything going around there. It'd be absolutely massive.
I think they'll go.
Honestly, at this point, it would be soul crushing to not make a bowl game.
Well, that's what I was reading. That's what I was reading tweets. Like it would be now. Like we're at a point where you have to make a bowl game.
Have to.
But yeah, it's been a good season.
Yeah,
keep Soares being more fine.
That's right. Reading up on Garrett Green's injury, it says he's still struggling with his upper body injury. Not likely he'll play this week or next week. So, you never root for injuries, but good news for UC in terms of West Virginia's best player.
Wait, what happened to How about Bowling Green? Remember how dominant they were?
I wouldn't say dominant, but
not dominant from like a wins perspective.
They were in
they
games.
kept taking. Look, Penn State, they were ahead at halftime.
Yeah.
All right. Like they were like in Texas A&M, they lost by 1 possession. They lost 26-20. And you lose to Northern Illinois has just been breaking hearts all season.
Oh yeah.
They beat Bowling Green 17-7 a few weeks ago, but they lost to Old Dominion. Like how do you have a lead over Penn State, who's number 3 in the country right now? You have a lead over Penn State at halftime. You give Texas A&M all they can handle, and then you go and lose to Old Dominion. Because we hadn't talked Bowling Green in a while. I wonder what they're up to. They'll be bowl eligible. They're 4-4 though. They're only 4-4, right?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. But while we're on Bowling Green, I'll do what I always do when we get on Bowling Green. Harold Fannin check in, tight end 1 in this draft class. He is absolutely incredible, tearing it up. 66 catches, 6 games into the season. Sorry, 947 yards. Harold Fannin has been tearing it up. 10 catches for 171 yards against Kent State, 9 for 135 against Akron. That Old Dominion loss, he had 12 for 193 as the tight end, 100 yards against Penn State and A&M earlier this year, 6 touchdowns already. The kid is tearing it up. The new NCAA football video game update had him moved from like 15th or 16th highest ranked tight end to the highest overall tight end in the league or in the country. So people are finally starting to take notice. I know they've faltered a little bit from earlier in this year, but Harold Fannin is unbelievable. Top tight end in this draft class.
You remember Michigan? They cheated to win a national
They
championship.
did.
Yeah, they
Asterisks.
did. It was like
They did.
And to obviously try to fix some of those issues, they started doing the earpiece to communicate with your quarterback and the coaching staff. This article came out talking about coach-to-player in-game communications during Power 4 college football games this season have been occurring on unencrypted frequencies. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. What's going on there? What's happening? Apparently, this means that it's accessible to anyone with a scanner and knowledge of how to locate the frequencies. Anyone and everyone that knows how to find these frequencies on a scanner can basically just be tuning in just to hear the old, conversations between these teams. Kind of wild. Wild.
So the big brain fix for sign stealing made it easier to steal signs. So
Yes.
another win for the NCAA. Good job, guys. Added to the long list of shit they can't do right.
NCAA, they'll be out here in a couple years. Bide our time.
Yeah, I said like 5 to 8. I think the Power 4, Power 3 will secede from the NCAA.
Yeah.
License school names, put them on uniforms. It'd be weird.
Be very weird. By the way, for those who want to know, just so because we didn't do ad reads today, no Champions show tonight. We will be back next Thursday for the Ravens game. It'll be Bengals-Ravens. We will be in Champions right before that game, and I'll probably be staying for the whole game, given that it is the Bengals versus Ravens. So we will not be there tonight on Halloween. We will be there next week for Bengals-Ravens. So
there will still be Chatterbox Bengals tonight.
Still Chatterbox Bengals
Still
tonight.
Chatterbox Bengals
Still Chatterbox
tonight.
Bengals
Normal
tonight.
time. It'll be at 7. I believe Elliot's helping me out. So you'll still get your fair dose of Bengals Elliot.
Do we do it in the costumes?
I think we almost have to.
Okay, all right.
So just peanut butter and Reed?
Well, I might go jelly if we sit next to each other
Yeah.
for the Bengals show. We'll see. We'll make that decision when we get to it.
Lots of time still. But so Chatterbox Bengals tonight, Champions Grill a week from tonight for the Bengals Ravens.
That's
game.
right.
Very nice, very nice.
That's
All right.
correct. All right. Kenner, by the way, can you do me a favor?
What you need?
Put out some candy out of your house today. Just put a bowl. You don't have to do anything. Put a bowl out. Say, take one.
But if one asshole kid takes all the candy on the first swoop, I'm never doing Halloween again.
That's fine. That's
'Cause
fine.
It's happened. It's happened before.
That's fine. That's fine.
You know?
I support the asshole kid.
You know what you should give out? You shouldn't give out butter, stick butter. You should give out
Thumbtacks?
No, the spray butter.
Oh.
Each kid gets one spray butter.
Why?
I don't know.
Bricks, broken glass,
Bricks
spray
and
butter.
You know what they say? The two biggest wins on Halloween when you open up that pillowcase, you got bricks and butter.
So the one reason why we don't put out candy at Halloween is because I was just
You don't like staying up for the kids
No,
and
we
interacting?
get like the big old bowl and we're like, put the candy out there like you said. We even have this big Frankenstein little cutout with his hand out like this, so you put the bowl in there.
Yeah.
10 minutes in, I go, oh, let's go see, if we've had any. All of it's gone. They even took the bowl.
Nice.
They took the bowl and everything.
Taking
That's
the bowl
why
is
from
crazy.
that point on.
It says take one.
From
One
that-
bowl. One bowl.
One bowl,
Can't fault the kid.
Be more clear.
So from that point on, I have refused to take part.
But you could
And-
just
and
sit out there
yeah.
and be fun.
It'll be fun, yeah. Only one. Only one.
Well, you don't
only
say
one.
only one. When they say trick or treat, you give them one candy. You're the person operating the bowl. That's why you sit outside.
No, and then you got the stress of, I gave him an Almond Joy. What if he doesn't want an Almond Joy? Well, you got to, what if he wants a Kit Kat? What if he wants a Kit
buying
Kat?
Almond Joy?
You're giving out almond joys?
It's a mixed bag of candy.
Get a better mixed bag.
First of all, what's wrong with Almond Joy?
I hate almond joys.
I love Almond
You're
Joys.
the one saying a scenario where the kid's not going to want almond
Because
joy.
most
but
kids
you're-
don't like Almond Joys.
Correct. So why are you giving them
Almond
out?
Unenjoys for kids.
Don't give out almond joys.
I'm not going to give out anything. In fact, you know what? I lied. I'm going to give out a bowl of just nothing but Almond Joys.
That is funny. Because you'd get a full bowl of almond joys at the end of the night.
I love Almond Joys. I'm just saying. But yeah. There you
That's
go.
outrageous.
Well, your
That's
neighbor
okay.
gave us 5 pieces of candy. Well, then go back. Anyways.
Sounds like your neighbors know how to do Halloween.
Sounds maybe. I don't even know what time Halloween is. You know what? You've talked me into it. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna get
Yes.
Frankenstein set back up.
Let's go.
And I'll meet you halfway. I'll take the Almond Joys out, enjoy for myself.
There you go.
And there you go.
Love that.
For you.
I'm going to go trick-or-treating to your house.
Do it.
Okay, we'll see.
My address is
Chat'll love that.
I wouldn't give that one out.
Chat would love that.
for my mental health, I've stopped checking the chat.
That's probably good.
They hate me. They really do.
I don't know
I don't
why.
think it's full hate.
I think it's a bit.
I think it's
I don't think
some
it's a bit. I think they just genuinely hate me, and it's fine. I mean, No,
I
it's
love
not.
you.
It bothers
I
me.
love you, Tanner.
I hate that they hate me. I give it the old college try. I mean, I shit on your team from time to time, but I mean, outside of that, I'm not a bad guy.
You're not a bad
You know?
guy.
You know,
Oh,
but
this Halloween thing might make you bad.
anyways, all right. Well, gotta go.
Dialed in.
What?
Dialed in after this.
Oh, dialed in with Tom Brenneman and Luke. There you go. Good stuff. All right, until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Dialed in with Tom Brenneman, Luke Brenneman. Coming up next, produced by Jelly.